Hey, everybody, welcome to Rising from the Ashes mini series, the Mirror capstone episode, epic 6-person lineup, all-star team, knocking it out the motherfucking park. And yeah, it's absolutely amazing. The first 2 episodes, we went deep on the ancient history of mirrors in ancient Egypt, China, Mesoamerica, and then now we have found ourselves in everything now, modernity, current society. And of course we can't forget about the rise of spiritualism in the 1800s when they were using mirrors to divine massive amounts of spirits, and this was a household name. So we're going to go in on everything. Really excited to have it looks like uh Gordy is the only OG from the original episode. And then we had Mario who joined us on the last one. But we got some other brand new humans to the Mirrorverse here. Well, not so new because all three of these homies on the bottom here do a Mirrorverse thing when they dive into their Marvel decodes. But I want to give everybody a chance to celebrate themselves by telling the audience who you are, where you come from, and why the fuck you're here today. Let's start with you, Juan.
I don't know where I come from, but I am Juan from the Juan Podcast. www.thejuanpodcast.com. Follow me on there. We just dropped the fire Patreon episode, me and Roman, the other night, so that was great. But yeah, I'm here to party, bro. I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Hey. Sweet. Yeah, and we fucking love you, Juan. That episode was great. We may have found some sweet gnosis that is hidden behind a paywall. So y'all gonna have to go check that out. And then we got Mario. What's happening with you, boo?
Hey, dude, I'm solid. I'm from Symbolic Studies, so symbolicstudies.com. You can find all my accounts there. I follow the signs and make content based on each sign during the sign itself. So right now I'm doing stuff on Leo, and I'm stoked to be here, man.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see what type of astrological symbolism we can get, and some other juicy details that I know you got some awesome North polaric type of things to pull down from the stars and bring upon and shine upon us, you beautiful human. And looks like we got Gordy, who is popping in. He is working, so he'll be in and out, but we fucking love you, so we're glad you're here, bro.
No, I'm here. I'm here for the duration, guys. I will be in and out, but I didn't want to miss this one.
Nice. And then we have everybody's brother, Slick Dissident, Gabriel.
What's happening, everyone? Yeah, Slick Dissident on YouTube. I'm also back in the web with the Weaving Spiders webs. You can catch me there, and I hang out with Chance all the time over on the Interverse. Come get you some.
Chance from Interverse. We are blessed to have you within our presence, sir. Thank you for coming on, dude. How are you?
I couldn't be better, dude. Been getting fitter all the time. You guys know what it is, interversepodcast.com. I'm pretty sure the Rising from the Ashes family will know about that show because our communities are so interconnected. I'm always doing my best to syncretize. And so my version of the mirror stuff that I have to talk about will be the mirroring of all the different mythologies and what that has to do with where we find ourselves today. So I'll see what I can throw down. Probably not as prepared as y'all. But I'm sure I'll have plenty to riff on. Interversepodcast.com if you want to check out what I'm up to. Always really good new happening multiple times a week over there.
Nice. Yes, and I'm blessed to say that we've all been upon the web, some more than others, and yeah, it's always a weave. We're always just majorly weaving. Like it's such a blessing to be able to.
Gotta weave your shirt, bro, because that shit has a bunch of holes in it, bro.
What, this one? I know you like
aerodynamics.
That is a terrifying desktop there, Roman.
Oh, I know. I need to clean it up. I didn't want you guys to see it. Oh God. Yeah. No. There's there's just so much going on all the time. So I have all the tabs open and all the things on my desktop. Yeah, so I guess the name for this opening slide is mirrored reality, just like the other ones, but mystical mesmerism, manifesting in the now. How this long, huge, mysterious history of reflective surfaces has come to give us what we understand as modern society. How our ancestors polishing polishing stone, polishing metallurgy, polishing materials to divine from the ulterior realms, and then how that came to look at the stars and gaze through the finding of optics, the creation of telescopes, and then as above so below, the microscopes, and the refractory and reflectory goodness of the mirror has astonished humans and other animals too. I don't know if you ever seen a dog look at itself in the mirror, but it can be entertaining. It's fascinating, and it's mystical, and it's mesmerizing. So let's get into it. Does anybody have any opening thoughts they want to say before we get into it? Maybe what type of experiences, if any, that you guys have had in mirrors?
The first time I ever smoked cannabis, I got lost in a mirror, making funny faces at myself and cracking up for like 30 minutes. My friends had to pull me out of there.
You're smoking that marijuana.
Oh,
Hey,
So I had somebody recently reach out and offer to scry for me. So that was interesting. And yeah, well, there was one night where I was just I was pretty stoned and I was looking at my tablet, and the first thing that conspiracy theorists talk about is like, oh well, technology is now the new Black Mirror. You have Netflix with the Black Mirror episodes and all these things. And I kind of just stood there for a little bit and looked at my reflection in the tablet, and I really like Austin Osman Spar's ideology when it comes to chaos magic, and his idea of staring into a mirror in order to break down your ego. So I kind of wanted to try that, but then I kind of got like freaked out when I started looking into it, because I'm like, what if I see something? What if I pull an Edward Kelly and I start to see some crazy Cthulhu-esque angel, and then I just stopped. But that's my story.
oof. Well, that's the thing, bro, is there's multiple sides. I mean, there's infinite sides of the reflection, and staring into it is the scary part, especially if you're looking for anything deeper than just what you look like in the moment, so you can fix your hair so it's fucking perfect all the time,
And
you
your
know?
shirt too.
No, my shirt is fucking perfect.
hey, I got shirts that holy. I just can't let them go. Like
There's
my Dream Theater 2007 tour shirt.
nice.
The last year with Mike Portnoy, possibly world's greatest drummer.
I was just about to
World's
say
greatest drummer.
Yeah, Dream
Confirmed.
Theater's drummer is next level.
So when
Yeah.
one of my earliest thoughts on mirrors, I still remember it because I still don't have the answer. I had this question as a child. If you had a sphere that was a mirror surface on the inside, internal mirror of a sphere, and you let in a little bit of light and put the lid on, shouldn't the light stay alive in a refractive sphere? Shouldn't it perpetually, forever, be bouncing around inside of the sphere? And I've always had that question in my mind, and to this day, I don't know the answer. I've never seen anybody be able to, prove or disprove that. Because if you do it on a large scale and there's any other surface inside of the sphere, it would absorb the light theoretically. So it's a question that kind of is very hard to answer, because any other surface or shape or substance other than a refractive perimeter is the only way to perfect that experiment. And it makes me think of the globus cruciger.
Oh, well,
Already uncorking my whole dome,
I know.
Gabriel.
How old were
Makes
you
me
when
think
you
about
had
if
that
the
thought?
realm is a contained system, like an alchemical flask, if there's something like that going on, but with a different dimensionality of the light besides just what we think of as a shiny, emission off a flashlight or whatever, that because there's clearly a mirroring effect going on in the as above, so below. Are we looking at a big mirror in the sky, but that mirror is a fractal that is a larger dimension of scale than just the photonic light that we see and call that which illuminates? Because technically all electromagnetic activity across the spectrum, from vibration to sound to light, all of that, and electricity, all of that is the same phenomenon.
And to riff on that, Chance, we have, right, we're talking about as above, so below. The Greeks really had it down packed. You have philosophers like Anaxagoras and Anaximander that talked about this realm being a reflection of a more divine realm, right? A reflection. So we always go back to this mirroring, not so much from just the actual mirror aspect, but how Romy talked about earlier, it is sort of like an archetype. We see it all throughout our cultures, the yin and yang, right? They're reflections of one another. They're inversions. We always see this again and again. And I came across something, the Ankh means both life and hand mirror, which I found really interesting, right? Because the Egyptians and the Ankh. So back to this idea that there is some sort of reflection. I read it was pretty much the ramblings of this one guy just blasted on nitrous, Benjamin Paul Blood, and his book, The Anesthetic Revelation and the Gist of Philosophy. And pretty much he would get super high on nitrous, and this was in the 1800s or so. And it was unregulated. He would just open up a can of nitrous and just get super blasted on it. And he said that he would reach this point of euphoria where he would be able to understand any concept that he was reading or writing about or thinking about, any philosophical concept. So he was writing down these ideas. And one of the things that really stood out to me in that pamphlet was the fact that when he would look into a mirror, he would think about how that is another world, right? How that is another reality in itself. The reflection of his, again, this guy's blasted on nitrous, so keep that in mind. He is looking at his reflection and wondering how he could tap into that other realm, because he sees himself looking back at himself. He's like, this is another, this is another world, another reality. So again, we have this mysticism behind the mirrors, and obviously Daddy D was doing it with Edward Kelly, their whole thing, and we can get into that later, because I have a different, I stumbled across some really good material. Unfortunately, homie Romy didn't give me enough time to prepare, but I did come up with some stuff. So
It's always my fault, huh?
yeah, bro. So as we get into it, I'll start bringing out some ideas I got going on.
Beautiful. And
I've got some ideas to throw down when it feels appropriate about how the mirror might be the origin of time.
Okay. That I don't shouldn't get into that now, or should we get into that later? 'Cause it's
Fucking
really
speechless.
interesting.
No, we'll just wait. I'll just wait
Okay.
until there's a really good moment.
Okay, perfect. Because I wanted to kind of dive into what Gabe brought up earlier, because it's super fascinating, and I'm curious what age did you start to kind of have that idea of that sphere and the light refractory?
I think I was about 7 years old.
Wow. That's the openness of the child's mind. That's fucking fascinating. And what it made me think about was things like, the northern lights, or the lights being refracted out. And, there's this concept of hollow earth and the second sun inside. And, where does this light come from? Well, I think if you were to have that mirror ball or that mirror sphere, which spheres and mirrors are both very occulted technologies. They both play a part in each other. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Cloud Gate either. That's in Chicago. It's a huge mirror cloud that's in the downtown Chicago, and its purpose is to reflect time and space, and to basically tear into time and space and to be a time warp. It's called Cloud Gate. It's made by the same artist who made Vanta Black, which is like you can't use this because it's copyrighted by this artist, but it's the blackest black that exists, and it's a huge thing in the modern contemporary art world. But if that had a charge, I don't see any reason why. If it had a vibratory charge, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be able to at least reflect the light. I don't know about forever, but at least for a bit, dude. At least for a little bit. That's such an interesting project.
Right? Like, even if it's just a fraction of a second, I consider that a breakthrough, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that shows us like, okay, now I have a universe in a jar.
Yeah.
Now I have a universe in a jar.
This is
Okay.
what, okay. You're already getting to kind of what my point was about the time thing, but I'll just say for now that one of the most primal or original myths that is reflected or refracted across all cultures, if you look deep enough or you explore the language and etymology, is the mythos of the seed. And the seed could be very much like what you're talking about, because, with this like orb that is filled with some kind of eternal light, because the seed has that type of a shape and it's a container, but within it is the mirror of whatever it was that produced the seed. And it can come forth from that, but it first has to go down into the underworld. That light has to go underground, which is metaphorical for the sun and what the sun does.
That also,
yeah, go ahead.
That because you're talking about how the light has to go underground. That plays into camera obscura, where it is it literally translates to dark chamber, and you can relate that to Black Rock or the Black Cube, and you can go down that whole thing. But we're talking about the reason I relate this because John Dee was obsessed with optics. He translated Euclid and all that stuff, and I came across this other camera, which is called a camera lucida, and I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's an optical device, and I never knew this existed, but it's used as a drawing aid. And what they do is it's like a little eyepiece that they put, and they have the figure that they're trying to trace in the front, and they look at it, and it's a reflection, and you can see the reflection downwards. And it kind of made me think about like reality itself, right? Are we actually looking at what they say that we're looking at, or is it again some sort of optical illusion? Because it always goes back to optics. Back then, the idea of optics being actual, extramission and intramission, where extramission was you were literally shooting eyeballs out of your eyes. For the longest time, they believed that we were like Cyclops, shooting out, rays of light out and illuminating what we were looking at, right? And it goes back to the whole the eye of providence, right? Where it's always with the beams coming out of it. Well, obviously with optics and science and all these advancements, it was later found out that no, it actually enters the eye, it's processed through a camera obscura type of way, flipped upside down. But again, back to that whole idea of that the sunlight has to go underground type of thing. Well, it's kind of the same thing. It has to go in the eye upside down, and then it gets processed by the brain, and we see normally. Yeah, it's the wildest thing ever. It is magic, you know what I mean?
I like to think about too that the light going into the ground. I mean, okay, we live on the Earth's surface, and we are not the center of the universe. Granted, a lot of us think that the human-centric view is the center of the universe, but or the center of at least our existence for sure, 100%. Yeah, right.
I would debate that, yeah, because we are this bridge point between the above and the below energies. And where, like Mario would say, wherever you're at could be the sacred center.
Yes, and I think that's very true, especially in our lives. But outside of that, I think and I'm speculating here, but I want to just riff on the fact that this camera obscura was brought up, and then also light penetrating the ground. Okay, obviously, light plays very important part in all of existence, but to have photosynthesis on the plants, right? That, so on and so forth. But what about the charge itself, the electrical charge necessary to keep the sustainable life happening for the planet itself? Yeah, you have gravity and you have these other things happening, but the light has to play an important part. And I'm thinking, I'm just visualizing a ball Earth just for fun, and I'm visualizing a hole, and the camera obscura was like shown through a tiny hole in the wall, and then it would project onto the wall from a tiny hole. And I'm thinking again about hollow earth. I'm thinking about, okay, well, if this light is coming through, going through a pole hole, and it's going and reflect, what's the image on the inside? What's the image on the inside of the camera obscura of the earth, of the poles?
The black
Right.
sun.
Oh,
All right. Let's get into this a little bit more. So the black sun. I've talked about this in other places, but there are a myriad of redeemer deities that are depicted as black and also symbolic of the sun. Like all of them, from Krishna meaning black, and we get Christos from that. Osiris was depicted as black, also sometimes green. And there's like a huge list of them, so I won't go over the whole list, but this seems to be definitely a thing. So the black sun could be reference to the sun when it goes into winter or when it's doing its underworld cycle, going below the earth. But the one I really want to talk about right now is Adonis. And Adonis, I see Gabriel
Adon.
perking up here. All right, so Adonis, he's said to be like really strikingly beautiful. Well, that feels like something you would look in a mirror to check out. But specifically, something you guys might not be hip to is that according to the Latin author Stephanus, Kronos was called Adamos, was one of his names. Spelled in Greek would be alpha, delta, alpha, nu, omicron, sigma, Adamos. And it's very interesting because the words like dam, D-A-M, mean earth and man. Adam, Adamos, Adam is the image and likeness of God according to the Christian tradition, which is an offshoot of these Greek and other mystery schools, even going back to India, where ADM in India means first. So Adamos is really not far from Adonis, which is the Lord and is a sun god. Now, the other thing about Adonis, I have a few things though. So if you guys want to jump in, I won't lose my place. But if you want to riff on any of the things I'm throwing out here, that's fine. But first, let's talk about Adonis's story. All right. Adonis is the son of Mira. Mira gets pregnant and is driven out by her family. And because I guess they didn't want to be pregnant, and she gets turned into a myrrh tree, M-Y-R-R-H. Could call it myrrh.
I was just reading this today, Chance. This is remarkable. I'm trying to find the paragraph, so keep going because this is just too sinky.
Well, okay. So eventually Mira gives birth to Adonis. By the way, speaking of mirroring, Mira is phonetically really no different than Mary, right? So, or Maya is very close to Mira.
Mm-hmm.
Maya being the mother of Buddha and also the mother of Hermes. So keep Buddha in mind as we go here. So Adonis is born. Aphrodite, who might as well be a Hermes figure, especially because there's a lot of information coming out in our circles lately about how possibly even the planets that we call Mercury and Venus got switched at one point. Like maybe they are the male female polarities of the same thing, because
during the transition, like the cosmological shift of the like the golden age split or something during that transition.
I mean more like the transition to when the Vatican rose to power and they started really throwing people off the course by taking old names for the sun and applying it to planets. But we won't linger on that whole idea. Other than that, Aphrodite, who is the one who found the newborn Adonis, Aphrodite is like Mercury in a lot of depictions, swinging both ways. She has a beard a lot of times. So she takes Adonis to the underworld. So the seed goes underground to be fostered by Persephone, who is another version of this whole myth too, if you know the story of Persephone. And she returned and brought him back once he was grown, and he's strikingly handsome at this point. So Adonis as a baby, as a seed, as a corn, because corn means seed, KRN, then comes back up as the beautiful son of springtime. Okay, definitely a death and rebirth thing. But let's zoom in a little bit more on this. All right. So we've already pointed out that Kronos, who is Saturn, who's also an archaic name for the sun, Kronos is also Adamu or Adamus or Adamus, all of these different variations. So Adonis and Kronos are linked here. All right. So one thing that happens between languages all the time is the L to R switch. That's one of the most obvious ones that most people are aware of. If you hear like, Asian speakers that are not native English speakers, they'll switch the L and the R all the time. And between Greek and Latin, this was the thing too. So Kronos, if you do the LR switch, becomes clone us. Clone us. Okay, what is a mirror other than your clone, right? But in Greek, the word that we get the word clone from in Greek means twig. So even that word, let's dig into that. Twig, TWI, the same as twee or twin.
Twin, yeah.
Twin G, 2G, just like the 2 G's in the egg, symbolic of what we're talking about, which is also a seed. An egg is a seed. All right. So we have all these linkages. We got Kronos, clone us, the seed that goes underground, and as Adam, the image and likeness of God. And then the other thing that is important to know is that, like, if we're talking about twigs coming off of a tree, those twigs are themselves like a fractal of the tree. If you look at the trunk and the structure of the branches coming off of it, and you look at the branches and see the structure of twigs coming off of it, all of that is very fractal. And it's like the twigs are the image of the branches, or the images of the trunk.
Fractal from the seed as well.
Exactly. And it's with the seed is the mirror of that whole structure. And then also the roots that do go underground mirror the branches and stuff up top. Now let's go back to Buddha. Buddha, who is called Ad. Buddha has many names, but Ad, A-D, is a name for Buddha. Ad, on, is. Ad, Buddha, the sun, on, is the being, which many names for the sun also mean the being or life or existence. Even Eve means that. If you take the Yod-He Vav-He in Hebrew, and one of the ways that you can phonetically translate that would be Y-E-V-E or L-E-V-E, the L of Eve, Eve L, evil. So the other thing to point out too about Buddha's name, Buddha, bud, it's a bud off of a tree. And I'll stop there because I've been going for a long time.
But I want to point out that in God we trust, IGWT is anagram. You switch around the letters, you get TWIG. It's tender. It's legal tender. You get enough twigs together, you pile them up, and you can start a nice fire.
Reminds me of a divining rod or the dowsing rod.
Oh, good call.
Isn't the budding rod a Freemasonic symbol? Can you elaborate on that, Mario?
I don't know too much about it. Isn't it Aaron's rod?
I'm not sure, but
So
Yeah, it's really
so-
interesting. It's this rod, I believe it's Aaron's rod, but they show little buds on it, and it's kind of like a miracle unto itself, from my understanding. And obviously, this is just how I roll, but it really does remind me of the world axis, the polar axis, which is what you're talking about when we're talking about trees and plants and everything else. Real quick, I just want to add to seed has C right there, right? And then mira for mirror, you know, in Spanish, that's to look, right?
Mm-hmm.
And two, like there's other words with MIR that I'm coming to realize, like admire, you know, and a lot of these things too, MIR words.
Admire has ad in it.
Admire, there you go. Yep,
Buddha.
exactly, for sure. And as you're talking about the
Nice.
seed, I immediately thought of the egg. And of course, I thought of the torus field. And the whole thing with the torus field is, you know, the central part, either the whole thing could be considered a seed or just the central part. But, you know, it splits off and it grows and then it returns to itself, which is very mirror-like.
Oh yeah, and the other thing I want to throw down too is that even the concept of a Buddha or Christ consciousness is the black sun within you, the light within that, you know, we are all in different forms externally, but the inner light for those that connect to that source energy is what you're looking for. You're looking for the mirror of the divine in the other whenever you advance upon a spiritual trajectory, right? So the Buddha is also, in that sense, very much Buddha consciousness, Christ consciousness is like being able to see the mirror of yourself in every other being and in all life.
Oh, well, thinking about Christ or crystal and crystal mirrors, crystal reflectories, like the original mirrors in South America being used from a black crystal, the obsidian, you know, and then, hey, let's talk about seeds. Let's talk about the seed of the earth. Like, what is the seed that grew the tree of the planet? Like, what's the seed, the black sun on the inside that sprouted the limbs of earth? You know, what is that? Is that there's talk about it being a crystal? What if it's a giant rotating magmatic crystal
It's like
in
that
its
movie.
other state, in its other matter state? What movie?
The movie where it's like puppets and they have to find a crystal that's like powering the ether or something.
Dark
It's on
Crystal.
Dark crystal. Yeah.
Dark crystal. Yeah, it's like sort of like that where the dark forces want to take it and use it for their own thing, and then you got the light people trying to stop them, and it's like this whole.
So good, so good. And hey, there's a Jim Henson weave because you have Mirror Mask, which is a Jim Henson film movie, which is fucking phenomenal too. It's such a trip.
Do you guys know what the differences in the tribes in the Dark Crystal are? The Skeksis, and you know what the other ones are called?
Mm.
I can't remember.
Mystics.
Mystics.
Ah.
I love the mystics.
Yeah.
They're like a much more lovable Alf.
Right. Less furry, less kitten eating.
Oh, hilarious.
You know, that also makes me, when you said Alf, it makes me think about the fact that, so I brought up how the Yod He Vav He letters in Hebrew could also transliterate to L-E-V-E, the Eve of El. Eve in Hebrew means life or existence. So the Yod He Vav He is the life of El, Eve El, and it's considered, you know, by many traditions that kind of take a more dark Gnostic bent, that life is the fall into matter is evil and meant to be escaped. And this fall into matter is symbolized by the apple from the tree. And the word apple in I can't remember the language. I think it's German. I should double check. I'll look this up and I'll get back to you. But there's a word in one language. Here, actually, I'm searching for it right now. Yeah, it's Welsh. The Welsh word for apple is affle, A-F-A-L, a fall. The affle is evil.
Nice.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense because Eve partook of the apple, and what was that whole thing with that's knowledge. And I always wondered why we, you know,
And the mirror gives you knowledge.
in movies.
Without the mirror, there is no knowledge. You're just sort of like a floating head, right?
In movies, they always portray you giving an apple to a teacher. It's always like the apple and the worm and all this stuff. And what you're saying, Chance, about L and evil, well, L is also Saturn, right? And that's why L11 in the Stranger Things, she's L, right? They call her L11. 101 is the two pillars in the portal, right? So and she literally opens up the portal in the show to the what? To the upside down world. Again, this reflection of a corrupted reflection of the quote unquote real world. So again, that you have, and that all ties back into Chronos, Saturn. So that's all
Yep.
it
And
ties.
11 is like, think how that glyph looks, the two lines mirroring each other.
Mm-hmm.
And in the word 11, you have El Eve again.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love how
undoubtedly mirrored. Please
Lets
go.
you kind of shines a little more light into why somebody like Crowley said 11 is the evilest of numbers, the Eve L of L even.
yeah. I like Crow brought this up recently. He was like, a lot of people believe that 1 and 1 is 2, but you can never forget that 1 and 1 is also 11. And that's just a beautiful thing to consider, that our language is not pictographic enough, and
Right, right.
it takes a lot
It
of
is.
beautiful
People just don't look at it
imagination.
that way.
Right, right.
Well, yeah, that's yeah.
And it's amazing with 11, obviously the Gemini symbol and the twins and this
Mm.
idea of, one of them living in the mirror world, or that's one of the deeper symbolic aspects of Gemini. It's like you're actually talking about, you yourself, and then maybe your relationship with your Ka or your soul, but your invisible twin, So
Mhm.
the fact that mirror symbolism corresponds with gateways and portals and other realms and everything else is pretty crazy.
And that's why, like, I don't even really remember how or why this even came up and why I thought it would. I don't really know. It was just one of those strange kind of occurrences, and it was just like, okay, well, fuck. I guess we need to do mirror stuff, and let me see who's interested. And then it just went on, and I was like, oh my, how did I not see all of this before? Like, it almost happened because it was just like something I needed to experience and see to be able to open my eyes more to the deeper symbolism going on. And surrounding myself with you beautiful existors has made such a thing possible, and I do appreciate you guys massively for that. But let's get on to this next slide here. We just got some pictures going on here. I thought this was kind of fun. Talking about the age of spiritualism and optics and everything. Illusions. Illusions are something that we deal with here in modern society massively. And when the mirror came to be, oh boy, did the stage globe change massively. So this is one of the many techniques used. This is obviously from a movie, but before movies, they were doing this on stage, and it's quite fascinating. I don't even know. You know.
You're talking about Pepper's Ghost?
Yeah, well, you riffed on that in the last episode, Gordy. Tell me more about Pepper's Ghost. I remember you mentioned that.
So Pepper's Ghost is a stage magician's trick where you use a mirror on the side of the stage that reflects onto either a film or a film with smoke or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they would reflect a person that's off stage that can't be seen, like, that's how they use all the curtains and things, to hide the actual person who's probably right there close. And because it would freak people out because they're interacting with this person that's ethereal, and people would come up and not be able to touch them and freak out. But it was a simple reflection.
Like a hologram.
It's like a hologram, but it's even simpler, because all light can be a hologram, right? But it's just the most simple of there's a trick you can do, actually really easy. If you have a glass cylinder and a piece of like plastic film, and you can tip it in the center of that plastic film and put it on top of an iPad, and you'll make a hologram. Whatever that is, as long as it has like a, whatever it's projecting has a black background, it'll look like just a hologram completely. It's super simple
Super
to do.
sick.
Any kid can do it. And it just shows you all the things that are possible. Like that's just the minimum, the
Mhm.
easiest thing you can possibly do. If you put 4, 5, 6, you know, like it makes me think of telescopes where they have all the lenses and the mirrors and they're reflecting back up to find that one specific tiny point, which is essentially the same thing that they used for Greek fire in Alexandria. Because there's all these legends of Greek fire. You know, they would defend the bay coming in with this great Greek fire. And the idea was that on land there were mirrors, and on the boats they would send out their navy also with mirrors that were reflecting that sun essentially, and it could cause a fire on somebody else's ship, just like that. Piece of cake. It's the earliest form of laser that we probably know of.
Nice. You know,
That's
it makes me
wild.
think. I've always thought about Daniel 5 in the story of Nebuchadnezzar's the king's chamber, where a disembodied hand appears and writes this Mimi Tekel protocols mystery, basically like one of the first memes, really, on the wall, and only the king sees it, and he pisses his pants and his knees start to shake and he's freaking out. But I'm thinking, the whole time I'm reading this, I'm like, this is basically just, Pepper's ghost illusion, very simplistic trick of the light.
Mm-hmm.
And it would explain the disembodied hand, it's
Nice.
just somebody, the rest of their body is off camera or out of the image of the light.
Very interesting. I'll just say real quick, I don't know if you guys have ever read Kathy O'Brien. She wrote Transformation of America. I don't know if I buy her whole entire story, but she's a really interesting character.
Very, very interesting character.
Yeah. And basically, she says in her book that they were pulling stuff like that off in the White House when she was there, that they were giving her optical illusions to make her believe in certain things for programming purposes and whatever, but that it was actually like built into the room using projections and kind of holographic type stuff. So, it's just like, why wouldn't you use this stuff to your advantage on like a really acute level, for programming purposes or whatever, and also on like a larger scale sort of level, right?
I mean, yeah, like you look at media and like, Star Wars loves using holograms, especially in their what would be their White Houses, right? When it's like the higher up people talking, it's like, oh, let me just pop on my hologram real quick. Like it correlates, and the people of power and these architectural powerhouses like the White House that are 100% technologically advanced, and they're hidden in the slightest of ways, in the way like when you consider mirror to be a technology, well, you put a mirror on a fucking wall and that's nonchalant, dude. Then you have a light above it. All it is a light and a mirror. Those are quote unquote household things, but they can also be used in ways that will trick and loose the mind and the consciousness. And when you have certain types of sacred geometry tied into the architecture as well, to thus have a sort of conscious drifting effect or focus effect or aloof effect, whatever the effect is, the science goes deep. And that's super fucking cool to think about that built into the White House. I mean, I've studied enough esoteric architecture to just be like, hands down, like, yeah, dude, I believe that. I don't even have to fucking dig into it. Because one funny thing that I wanted to put into the slides, but there's just so much on this mirror shit that it's physically impossible to put it into one feasible episode. But all of the state capitals, for the most part, or very important monuments, they have the hermetic draw. They put a man-made pond or a lake in front of it so it reflects the building on the lake. Obelisk have it, the White House has it, the Lincoln Memorial has it. Like they do that on purpose. And well, when you look at hydromancy, which is one of the 7 Renaissance magic practices, hydromancy is also another form of scrying, but using water, which is a living substance, by the way, moving and living and rippling and, absorbing light and information. It's fucking water. Of course, you can do magic with water. And so you put these man-made ponds or lakes in front of these buildings to what? I don't know, scry with it? Like what do you guys, what's your take on these man-made water structures in front of these very important architectural pieces of history?
One thing that they consider that Moorish design, and so right there we have the word mirror in the word.
Yeah,
Moorish.
and more is mar, is
Mhm.
also mort.
And they're not called ponds.
Mort's Lake.
They're called reflecting pools.
Exactly.
Dude, yes.
And
yes.
let me throw down on that for a second too. This universal myth of the seed, sun god archetype thing has a lot to do with water. The words that refer to these beings, these sun gods, black suns, do come back to the concept of flow and water quite a lot. And that would probably be because the sun gives life, but also water gives life. So water and the sun get kind of tied together. So like an example would be Bacchus, who would also be spelled as or pronounced as Iacchus. And the Iak, IAK or iota alpha kappa, is phonetically the same as the Ak in aqua, which pertains to water, of course. And then another way that Bacchus was described was with the 3 letters upsilon, eta, sigma, which would phonetically be hues, right? But the so there's that refracting of the mirror refraction of light, because when white light goes through certain crystals, Christos, it becomes split into the rainbow.
The
But
prism.
Then the upsilon in the upsilon eta sigma, which is also what later became IHS that they show for Jesus, is basically hue, like HU. And in Greek, hudor is the word meaning water, and we derive hydro from hudor. So hue, water, Bacchus, Jesus. And then there's more, back to this idea of technology that you're describing. You know, who is the master dark devilish, you're looking at the devil's mirror here on the slide. The craftsman is Tubal Cain. So 2 ball, 2 dos, bell,
007.
bell, bail, ball, right? No different. 2 ball is no different than diablos, diabol. Dia is 2, and it also means God, and it also means day.
The
Bol is
dyad.
the precursor to Baal. And even you get the bell in Abel, Cain and Abel, 2 bell, Cain and Abel. It's really kind of the same thing. And then another fun part is that the ABOL, Abel, or ABEL, the P and the B are mirrors of each other. So Abel becomes apple.
Oh shit. We got some P and B to drop on you later, dude. This is that's fucking cool, actually.
And this craftsman, though, requires, whether he's Vulcan or he's Tubal Cain, he requires the implements of the forge, including the bellows, which is phonetically the same thing as below, right? So like the devil, the diabol, is the other sun, the other god, the nighttime or the winter, and that's the evil, the affle, the fall, the sun falls.
I love so
Nice.
the bell. Okay, go ahead, Mario. You're gonna go. Go.
I was just gonna say this is new information to me, but apparently there's a mirror that Vulcan was tied to. It was known as Vulcan's mirror.
I have that slide in here later.
Oh, sweet.
I
Well,
wanna
maybe
know
I'll
more
just
about
save
that.
it. Yeah. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it when it comes up then.
Yeah,
Well,
I got.
But
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
want to kind of make that connection from what Champs was bringing, and then let's dig into that Vulcan's mirror. I've never heard of it. one aspect that always comes to mind for me when I hear two-ball cane is the symbol for the percentage. The percentage sign is two balls and a cane. And so if you're a master alchemist or even a ingenious musician, you know, you need to know those dividing lines, those percentages, to know the difference between a fifth and a fourth and A minor, and you know, or as a, you know, bankers manipulating alloys and metals, they also have to be masters of percentages and knowing you know, the secret sacred numbers to get the recipes just right.
That's genius, dude. And I'll just throw out there that that percentage symbol is like, you know, 50-50 ball and a line between it and another ball. And
Fuck.
think about the Latin glyph for 5, which is V. If you put 2 V's together, you get X, which is 10.
You get a
Nice.
W, and also that's a fucking mirror of itself.
So
Nice.
I want to add, because Gabe's
And the
talking
word
about
double U, the double of you.
Gabe is talking about ratios, scales, and this is why I love Pythagoras, because it all goes back to Pythagoras.
Always, dude.
That event, he was the one that supposedly came up with ratios and the musical scales. After he came up with musical scales when he walked by a blacksmith shop and he heard him bang, you know, talking about Vulcan, banging on an anvil and the different pitches it would make depending on the size of the hammer that the blacksmith would use. So check this out, because Romy talked about the architecture and why they build architecture next to these bodies of water. If you talk to Emily Moyer, she'll say that there is interdimensional architecture and how it's a reflection of itself, and how some windows are other worlds because they're mirrors, right? All these buildings are covered in mirrors. Now, we got to remember that in the Matrix, how does Neo access the Matrix in the newest Matrix? He goes through the mirror. He enters through the mirror. There are occult ideologies that the mirror can send you into a higher sense of consciousness, right? Into the astral realm. That's what Edward Kelly was doing. He was scrying, right? Looking into a mirror, scrying, but scrying is a little bit different because you need the psychic abilities of the scryer in order to make it work. That's why D always depended on Kelly, because D had 0 psychic powers whatsoever. So I came across this.
A lot of these wizards are like that. They just find somebody to exploit because
Yeah.
they don't have the juice themselves.
So I came across this idea, which fucking blew my wig back. I was like, "Oh shit!" Right? So it's it's a Neoplatonic element. Was contributed by Renaissance art theory by Ficino. Hopefully, I'm saying his name right. Ficino. Notions of an invisible ideal architecture. Now, so like when I read that, I was like, "Oh man." It perked my nipples hard. It just made my nipples so hard. So
I'm creaming over
this
here, bud.
invisible ideal architecture, right? So because D was obsessed with optics and Euclid and shapes and all these things, right? And he had a Neoplatonic view on the world. All is math. Everything goes back to math, and magic is what you use to come up with the equations of what governs the universe. That's what he looked at it from a scientific point of view. He really helped birth the whole science, but it was magic before that. Nobody gave a shit about math before in John Dee's time. They were like, what is that? It's sorcery. You know, you die, you got burned at the stake for using math. So this Renaissance artist, he believed, and this is what blew my fucking mind, he believed that exact adherence to Pythagorean ideal ratios would generate within the visible shell of a physical building another invisible form belonging to a higher intellectual realm. So we're talking about Renaissance architecture, where they, again, math, when they build these buildings to a certain ratio and a certain mathematical level, it emulates, it reflects a higher realm of consciousness. Again, as above, so below. So not only are they using architecture for magic, they're literally emulating another realm within an actual physical realm. So again, this matrix above stacked on top of this reality. You know, that's what quantum computing is and all this shit, where they talk about this shadow world, this upside down world on top of our world. And you're able to, through the use of certain technologies, pierce that veil and grab things from that realm and pull it into our own and use it for your own good or evil. So
Yeah.
that
Right.
when that fucking when I read that, I was like, what in the fuck? Because D translated Euclid. He was a mathematician. He was so above his time. And he used math as he had a certain name for it. He called it mathesis, right? It's almost like a magical use, the esoteric uses of math. And again, it plays into everything. That's why people always make fun of me, like, oh, well, did you stop at Pythagoras? I go, dude, Pythagoras fucking was the Mac Daddy OG of to me of occultism, because he just proved that there is a realm of numbers, of technology, this technology that you're able to use above everything else, like a blanket. So yeah, dude.
Very interesting, dude. I'll just say real quick, you know, my understanding is that when you're talking about these kinds of structures, it's always nested too. So you're talking about nested or concentric sort of structures within itself. And then the structure that is at the heart of the larger structure is like the Holy of Holies, like Solomon's Temple. So if you ever study Solomon's Temple, they have a courtyard, and then they have the larger building, and then they have a space inside, and then inside another space, and then either one more space or that's it. But the Holy of Holies right in the middle, I mean, they say that that's where you could actually literally manifest and like see spirits and stuff like that. And
Well,
you had to have a particular diet, you had to have a particular lifestyle to even go in there, because your resonance wouldn't be able to handle what's happening in that sacred space, the sacred center.
that plays into what me and Romy were talking about Rosenkreuz's tomb, where it is this, again, it's got the eye, the oculus at the top of it, right? And it's got in the center the cube looking thing in the center, and they used it for what? For manifestation, right? They used it to ascend. You know, when we were growing up in school, at least for me, the way they explained those chambers and the pyramids, it was for the soul to ascend. Well, I think they were using mirrors and that shit too, you know, to reflect light a certain way, maybe come up with some pickles. What was it called? The pickles ghost or peppers ghost or something.
Shut the fuck. First of all, let me stop you right there. You can't be out here just saying, well, they were using mirrors in the pyramids because, yo, that's tight. Because
bro, 100% they were using mirrors. That's been proven that in order for them to light up the entire thing in there, they needed to use mirrors of some sort. 100%.
Okay, but real quick,
I got a weave on Pythagoras to throw down.
Go ahead.
All right, so I also got to give a shout out. I get a lot of the keys to the symbolism from my buddy Dylan Sicosio. Check out the Spirit World series. Once you see certain patterns, then you're going to start seeing them everywhere. But there's some interesting information in. So I think Pythagoras is probably another allegorical character, not historical, most likely. Here's a couple of reasons for that. So
I agree. Yeah.
Who isn't, dude? Who isn't?
Right. So I'm taking a lot of this part from Dylan's book, A God's Acre for Winds of the Soul, which I'm working on the audiobook for currently. We'll have that done pretty soon. But Bacchus, back to Bacchus, mythologically conquers India and then retreats to Mount Meros. Meros, Meros, or Mu, Eta, Rho, Omicron, Sigma. That is the word in Greek for thigh. So the Mount Meru of India is the Mount Meros in Greek, which means thigh. And apparently another name for Ursa Major in some places was the thigh. Pythagoras was said to have a golden thigh. And he showed this golden thigh to Abaris, or sounds a lot like Abraxas to me, he showed it to him on the mountain of the sun, Mount Meros. Anyway, this is fascinating to me because Jupiter supposedly carried Bacchus in his thigh, and he's born from the thigh. Jupiter rules that Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the astrological sign that corresponds to the thighs.
Wow.
So you have two thighs. There's a mirroring there.
You got two eyes, man.
And between the
so
thighs,
Pythagoras could be, You know, Pythagoras could be an encode for the mighty hunter Orion,
It's our two
potentially,
pillars, dude.
because
It's our Joachim and
Pythagoras,
Boaz, bro.
Pythagoras and Asclepius, you know, are correlated. Even that Abaris character that Pythagoras showed the thigh to, some people syncretize that to Asclepius, the god of medicine, who is also like very much related to Ophiuchus the serpent, who is right next to Sagittarius, the hunter.
Um,
And
I
Pythagoras,
want to drop a little bit, kind of bring what Juan mentioned with Panta Arithmos into this, into the idea of all is number. Panta Arithmos means all is number. And that is kind of taking it back to when people thought that math was magical.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you take the septenary cipher and you, I have it memorized. I can see it in my mind forward and backwards all day long.
Nice.
But when you look at it, it is a mirror. It is two pillars. They are two reflective pillars. It goes from 1 up to a 7 and then back down to a 1. So it has this reflective value. And the two center pieces, the keystone of the septenary cipher is the G and the T. G and T are both 7s, and they are unique in the septenary cipher because they share. 7 is unique because it only has 2 representative numbers. All the other numbers in septenary have 4 numbers associated. So the 7 is the pinnacle of the mountain, the top of the mountain, and G and T become interchangeable. And so now let's go back to the word mathematical, and let's replace the T in the word mathematical, and it becomes mathmagical. And so,
or like Mary Magdalene.
Yes, and there's the tower, the Magdala.
Yeah, and
from the city of Tyre, the city of towers.
And Tyre, by the way, is pronounced Sir. Tyre is pronounced Sir, which takes us back to the serpent symbolism, or Surya, the Indian sun god in Hinduism. There's a lot of weaves with Surya. But to go back to this Mary Magdalene idea, the Mary and Martha, Mar and Mar, Mir and Mir, Mary and Martha, who stand at the two sides of the cave that Jesus is buried in. The cave is basically I think that's the same thing as the cave on Mount Meru or Mount Meros.
Yeah.
Basically you could call it the cave of Brahm. The Etrurian or the Etruscans, who were the precursors to Rome, they called Bacchus Bruma. Bruma sounds a lot like who? Brahma? You know, even Brumalia in Rome is the festival for the winter solstice. So the cave of Brahm, or Abram, Abram, that means father or high father, and Ham means black or darkness in Hebrew. And to go back to that Mary, Martha, Mir, you know, who were the two goddesses that tried to work together to resurrect Osiris, who is the black god, Isis and Nephthys, but they had alternate names, just like all the gods in Egypt. And their alternate names, Isis and Nephthys, were Mary, Meri, and Merti, Merti.
Sweet.
Mary, Martha,
Nice.
Mary, Merti.
Okay, now here's the
and
thought.
They stand guard on the two sides of the Tomb of Winter, the Cave of Brahm.
Totally. All right. So we've got two mirrors facing each other, right? And that generates a reflection. Well, we can take the F's,
and
we
then
can
a
convert
resurrection
them into S's. We can take the R, convert it into a L. We get reflection becomes resurrection. In between the two mirrors is a resurrection or a reflection. And we have two major oceans. We have the Atlantic and we have the Pacific. And if you're going around in the alleged circle, you will be repeating yourself over and over. Pacific, Atlantic, Atlantic, Pacific, Atlantic, Pacific, Pacific, Atlantic. So right there we have
Nice, dude. Yeah.
a bit of a resurrection encoded into.
Mirrorica is between them.
Yeah.
There we go.
I know.
The mirror of K.
Exactly. Right.
So-
right.
There's a couple things I want to dig on real
And
quick.
K is 11.
Just for the invisible, not to dive too deep on this because I want to keep going on this, but before we get far away from the other topic with the invisible architecture, I need just everybody to get a copy of The Art of Memory by Frances Yates. She was an author in the 70s that brought the Hermetic revival back into the 20th century. Nobody else is writing like her at all in the 20th century, without a fucking doubt. But she wrote the same thing. She also made this book called The Art of Memory that is about the specific sacred geometry that was built in these architecture that does do the same exact thing Juan was talking about. Access the higher consciousness through the sacred geometry of the architecture. It is without a doubt, and she wrote it in a book. You can go and read it and get the dimensions. I have it. It's amazing. It blew my fucking mind. And that when you walk into a box door and you fucking forget everything, because all of the fucking architecture that we live in now is complete and utter fucking bullshit. It's prison cells to literally have you not have with any information, not to hold any information, not to keep anything sacred within these jail cells, because we're not living in anything sacred anymore. And it's an incredibly important thing, because you could have mirrors and that might be able to elevate the vibrations and everything, and you might be lucky enough to not live in an apartment, and to be able to have some sort of rounded surfaces. But it is without a doubt that type of architecture, just having round, creates an area for spirits to be able to move about freely, and your energy is a spirit, and for your energy to move around freely and interact with other energies, so then thus you can have celestial information regarded with you at all times, and your intuition can be at an utmost optimization. It is written within our ancestors, and it's written within the occult and the esoteric realms, and that's what we're bringing back on this side. And so that's what I just wanted to cap out at with the invisible architecture. Very fucking important. We need to bring it back. We're living in prison cells. But outside of that, what you guys are weaving on with the Mary, and I kind of said this thing on a chat the other day, but I was like, okay, well, the Virgin Mary, she's just a master magician or a master alchemist, and Jesus, or this archetype, is a golem, was something that was created and then thus breath life into later, and the M's, like magic, mesmerism, mirrors, magnets, movement, money, all these things with M's. What the fuck is the M, y'all? Like, I want to know what your guys' opinions are on the deep esoteric history or whatever the understanding of you about the letter M, and maybe W as well, because they seem to be like hermetic of each other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
in between Latin and Sanskrit, W and M switch, and they are mirrors of each other.
Yeah.
So,
Right. You got
like talking
nature.
about Mercury or even Mary.
M is in the middle too. Is the middle letter of the
yeah,
alphabet.
it is. It's right in the middle of
Yep.
the alphabet. Perfect. Yeah, and in Sanskrit, wari, W-A-R-I, or wari, is the same as the Latin word mare, which is the sea. Mare, which could be reflective potentially. The sea isn't usually as reflective, but it is water. So, your your goods or wares and mares. The wares are transported across the mare. Wari is Mary. It's very, very much a mirror there between the WM thing.
Yeah.
Same with mater and water. Mater.
Water. 100%.
I'll just say, I think it's really curious that sometimes, the Aquarius symbol essentially looks like two M's stacked on top of each other. I made a video about it. So this is a 12-sided dice. That is the symbol for Aquarius. Sometimes it has an extra line on it. It looks like two stacked M's. You turn it around, it looks like two W's. And Aquarius is the water bearer, right? And in that video, I linked Aquarius, with Mary, and that sometimes Mary is referred to as what is she? Stella Maris, which is the star of the sea, which is the North Star, which is like the guiding star and everything else, right? And sometimes she's referred to as Virgin Mary, our star of the sea, something to that effect, And I just want to throw out there too that you mentioned memory, and the Hebrew letter mem means water. So when we say memory, I think it's a direct reference to that as well, which I think is kind of curious.
To riff on that, Mario, because I got some shit on Yeats too, and it's Yeats, the theater of the world.
Yo.
According to Yeats, Dee considered mathematics in three distinct aspects: pragmatic, mechanical problem solving, conceptual logic, and spiritual. And obviously he used mathematics to bring all this together. But one thing that stood out to me was that Dee believed that architecture united the spiritual and material worlds, the heavens and the earth. So he believed that the any architect that was to build anything that was going to be writing plans or anything needed to be well versed in the quadrivium and everything else to understand, because it's not just you build a building, you're literally building another world, essentially
A body.
another realm. Exactly, you're building another realm into what Roman was saying. When you go in through the door, it's like you're stepping, you ever been into a room and the air feels different? A lot of hauntings and things that happen in rooms or places. Again, this is all very it's all interconnected, and John Dee believed that it was all connected. Again, as above, so below.
100%, dude. A room is a microcosm of the universe. That's kind of the deal. A building is a microcosm of the universe, And so that's how I tend to
Damn.
look at it.
Oh, that's why when you look at the floor plans for cathedrals, I'm going to say any cathedrals built up until like the 20th century at least were the blueprints of a cross, right? It was like a cross on the ground. Generally would always have, the long bottom, the head, and the two arms, and the cross is also the human body, right? And then the human body being the micro and the macrocosm of the universe. So it's just incredibly fractalized down into itself. And then you have people, and at the heart generally is where they'll have a big rotunda. And we've talked about what the use of a rotunda is in resonance architecture. Literally, the spire creates a toroid around the building through this sacred site electromagnetic frequency there that's at this heightened place, because they're always built on that. That's why they have dowsing rods. They have rams on the outside. The ram's head is a dowsing rod, right? So when you see a ram on a building, you're like, oh, that was found through dowsers and magicians, bro. And but the rotunda itself would take the energy and whirl it down. And so people would stand in the circles and walk around in circles, like the whirling Sufis are the only practicing of that old way of gathering ether energy and to be able to put themselves into a mesmerized transic state. And that's right at the heart chakra of the building of the body. Like you were saying, like you're building the fucking universe in there. I believe that. Frances Yates, I'm glad you had a book on that one, because like I was brought attention to that author, and she was.
I sent it to Mario, the Art of Memory, too, the other day.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Damn.
Trying to get into, because I have something that goes full circle into everything that we're talking about in the same line of thought, because architecture is an art form, right? And me and Nick Hinton, I've been going back and forth texting, and he's saying how art is magic, making art is magic. And we had this crazy, I told you guys the crazy synchronicity that we had. And he's like, yeah, dude, because, you're writing a comic, you're making art, it's already charged enough with all the attention it's getting and all this shit. So we have these crazy synchronicities. And so, again, architecture being a conceptual art, as long as it's in coherence with the Pythagorean ratios, you have this idea of it being a perfect, the golden ratio, Fibonacci sequences, all this sacred geometry, because it all goes back to the Platonic solids and all the same thing. And remember, Plato got his ideas from Pythagoras, and Pythagoras was the one that really paved the way for the Platonists, Neoplatonists, so on and so forth. So now we tie in alchemy with this, because alchemy, again, it's an art. What they wanted to do was they wanted to sort of, how Mario was talking about, reflect the cosmos, if you will, higher levels of consciousness into engravings. So these paintings that these alchemists would do, essentially they were charged talismans. They were talismans that there were reflections of a higher divinity, of a higher plan. And we know that again through there is this alchemical text I came across called Kabbalah, Mirror of Art and Nature. And again, it's got this weird history and all this stuff, but essentially the dude came up with 4 mirrors. And when you would put the mirrors in conjunction with each other, they would reveal to you the secrets of the Philosopher's Stone. So again, mirrors have been used in everything, even in Kabbalah and all these things. So essentially it's about creating the tarot. They say that is a mirror of the soul's journey, right, in order for enlightenment. So these miniature worlds, these miniature reflections of the macro in the micro, in little mirrors or in little paintings in art. And I think art is a mirroring of a higher realm, because art comes from the subconscious. Symbolism bleeds through. That's why I tell people pay attention to the symbolism in these movies, because that's the subconscious talking. Freudian slips in all these pieces of movies and cinema and all these things. It's like, no, it's the truth bled in with fiction. We always talk about transmuting fiction with reality. Well, there it is. You got movies, you got art, you got comic books, you got all this shit. That's just the subconscious speaking, and that's how it manifests itself. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So again, this idea of a mirroring and tying fiction, reality, the micro, macro all together. And yeah, the alchemists were making small talismans in order to meditate or to look upon and get lost in that work. You know what I mean? Again, it's another form of the art of memory, memory palaces, where you go into the painting, ad infinitum, you keep going and you explore all the realms and possibilities, nooks and crannies, and you get lost in it.
Let's talk about
Let me
talisman.
riff on the ram real quick there, Romy.
Yes.
You were talking about the rams and the architecture.
Oh,
Can't leave out that that many languages, like going between Hebrew and other languages, you have to read right to left or left to right, very mirror-like. So the ram is the symbol of Mars or Aries. Ram in Hebrew means most high. Okay, so then ram backwards is Mar, back to the Mary or the
Mary.
Martha. So the ram being associated with Mars or Martius, the month, or Aries, the sign of Aries, that makes perfect sense. And then so Aries backwards, let's put that one backwards. The Greek Aries is Ares. Backwards is Sarah. Sarah is the consort of Abraham, the most high father of darkness. That's what that name means. So also you have not only do you have Abraham and Sarah, but you have Brahma and Saraswati. But Saraswati in Hinduism, Saraswati, her consort was Vishnu. Vishnu is Vishnu. Vishnu is correlate to Mercury or Jesus. We won't dive down that rabbit hole too far. But another thing I wanted to point out too, how mirrors, the symbolism is mirrored in the body, or in the language we use to describe the body, is that Aries, the sign in medical astrology, correlates to the head, or specifically the higher mind, the cerebrum, cerebrum, or Sarah Brahm, the cerebrum or cerebrum, Sarah Brahman, right? Abraham and Sarah. This is the higher mind. This is the human mind. So it also means the seed of Brahm. Ceres meaning seed. And Sarah is a word also referring to like rivers and flow. So it all just continually connects in these crazy ways.
I never thought about that, because you have the cerebellum as well, and that sounds exactly like cerebrum. And I wonder if those play a mirroring part in the neuroactivity. I don't know much about those two in action, but that's
cerebellum
awesome.
means seed of war.
Yes.
Wow.
Whoa, very interesting.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yep, cerebellum.
Yeah.
Bellum.
Yeah.
Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The Jehovah is a man of war. Who is Mars? Mars is the god of war.
right?
Thinking about brain activity and gold and mirrors and consciousness and the sacred geometry and architecture of our ancestry, that's has to be in our minds constantly when we study the history, when we study the mythos, because thinking about what you just said, the cerebellum is like the seat of war, right? Well, it's when you add magnets and metal and frequency to your brain, you are changing the rate of your vibratory consciousness. And so that's what our ancestors were doing, and they were well adept on this.
Right. And the
And
cerebellum is the back brain, the hind brain, basically like close to the R context, R complex. So it's like the lower mind, seat of war, and then the higher mind, seat of Ram, seat of Ram.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I was just going to say real quick about the mirroring thing. Whenever I'm looking into mythology or I hear titles of certain deities or whatever, you reference the Most High. So then there has to be a mirror relationship with that. That's just always the deal. So if you're thinking about something as above, so below, So when I see a building and I see how high it goes up, I also think about how low it must go into the earth. When I think of a tree and it's nice and big and powerful and there's a presence to it, I think about how deep the roots go. And we talked about the Kabbalah and the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's lesser known, but I'm sure you guys are well aware of it. But, there's the tree of death or the Klipothic tree of life, the clip off. And so there's a whole nother system where it's literally the tree of life, the Kabbalistic tree of life, but it's completely inverted, And so I just think that it makes sense whenever you're thinking about anything. When you're thinking about the light, you have to think about the dark. When you're thinking about the masculine, you have to think about the feminine, It's this mirror sort of concept that's really just seen absolutely everywhere. And so, Chance, what you just said with the cerebellum and everything, I think it kind of just proves all of that. That's really fascinating
Well,
stuff.
another thing to throw down on the ROM, RAM, RAM, ROM, all of that is fascinating when you start to think about Romulus and Remus, the twins who founded Rome. There's a lot of gravy to get into with that, but we'll just leave it there for now.
I would love to hear it.
One of the roots of the word Latin is lato, which means to be pleased, like to be elated. And I find that Latin is a language that is full of humor. They be laughing all day long when they speak in Latin. So yeah, a lot of this mirroring of the language is essential. There's, right there, what Chance just laid down with Mars and Aries and the Rome and the Ram. That is like 101 to getting your head around how mischievous they are. Even the word arms, arms. It's the same letters. You're just rearranging
as
bars.
Mars, yeah.
Then that's your fighters, bro. That's your fighting pilots right there, bro.
Yep.
Fuck with my arms.
To bear arms.
You
right?
motherfucking wish, dude. I will knock your ass so goddamn silly. I will you up. Anyways, put them down.
Yeah.
Put them down, bud.
Armies.
On back to like the water symbolism laid up in all this, because water is reflective like a mirror. If we hadn't established that,
oh yeah,
like the word myrrh, right? This is probably derivative of the Greek muro, which would be spelled transliterated in English M-U-R-O. Kind of funny because if you read muro backwards or just the myrrh of it, the M-U-R, you get, or the mure of it, you get rum. Rum, keep the rum flowing. But in Greek, another word that pertains to motion and flow is how you pronounce this would be like ruma, or room, or like transliterating kind of like to R-H-U-M-E. So it's very close to Rhea, and Rhea is the consort of Kronos. And
makes me think of rumors of war.
Rumo, the ancient name for the Tiber River of Italy, was Rumo, R-U-M-O. And the word muron, M-U-R-O-N, is an anointing oil or ointment. And the anointed one is the Christos, or even like the Moshe or the Moses. MSH means the anointed one in Hebrew. And oil
Chance,
is
do you know
named,
that?
so oil is named after all this water and flow stuff because, you know, it has the qualities of liquid, or it even reduces friction and allows things to, like, you know, flow next to each other.
Beautiful.
Do you know the artist Miro? Miro. It was like a.
Music or
It
physical
was
art?
a. No, it's he was kind of a contemporary of Picasso and oh, what's that? What's the guy who drops shit? Um, Jackson Pollock. So I always thought that Miro was kind of like the art psyop because it's garbage. It's just like scribbles on a canvas, and then like a colorful dot and a colorful circle, and then like might look like hands of something. It was very 60s. It was in the like on a lot of jazz record covers, that kind of stuff. Anyway, I always kind of thought that time in art was a complete reset. I mean, you look at Jackson Pollock and Miro and all these abstracts that kind of started with, I think, Picasso, because they were redefining what mainstream art was, right? But Miro had this. It's one of those arts that just bugged the shit out of me, kind of like Garth Brooks, you know. No matter how I hear it, it just makes me angry. I don't know what it is, but I hate it. And Miro's that.
Yeah, that's interesting. It makes me think of how anger is a demand for a higher standard. And
Exactly.
And they systematically lower our standards so that the next generation can be so impressed by Roblox.
Oh, damn, dude. I hate thinking about that, but you're fucking right.
Hey, this could really turn into a whole sub-series of magnets too.
Dude, I have, so the three things that are coming up, or the next one will be glass. It's going to be the esoteric history of glass in a 3-part series, and then we're going to do magnets after that. So that's kind of the progression of these mini series that we got going on. Because they're all, yeah, dude, they're all fucking deep, and I would love to if any of you guys wanted to join. But I have 40 fucking slides, and a lot of them are really interesting. So let's get on to this shit. I'm just gonna rip through this because this kind of shit is really hilarious.
You can't have this interesting of a fucking panel, bro, and have a slideshow at the same time, bro. There's just no way you're gonna get through it because you got too many bright minds here to actually get through all the slides, dude.
Well, we're never feated, bro. There's no feats that can't happen. No saying we can't. You know, we're only an hour and a half in. You know, I do got to go by 6 because I have to do plant things. But, hey, Juan, zip it, bud. I'm just kidding. I love you so much. You're the best. Anyways, my friends, here it is. When you're reading articles like this, when they say fool's gold mirrors found in Arizona reveals ties to ancient Mexico. Well, you have to kind of, you know, snicker a bit and say, wait, you're going to tell me that Arizona's related to Mexico? No shit. Why would you even have to say that? It's literally ripped away from them just, you know, like just centuries ago. And it was just Mexico. Like it's newly America, you fucking idiots. But they found artifacts, and that's the interesting part. So here we go. Archaeologists exploring the ties between ancient cultures in the southwestern U.S. and central Mexico have turned their attention to some unusual artifacts evacuated in Arizona. More than 50 mirrors encrusted with the brilliant mineral pyrite, crafted in distinctively Mesoamerican styles. The mirrors were originally unearthed in the 1930s and 60s during excavations of major settlement of the Hohokam culture, as now known as Snake Town. Most of the mirrors were found broken, burned, and buried with cremated human remains, with 36 mirrors having been discovered in 16 separate graves. They were just one of many signs of cultural interaction from Mesoamerica discovered at Snaketown, along with ceremonial ball courts, copper bells, and the remainings of colorful macaws. But until an effort undertaken in 2001 to analyze the grave goods and repatriate them into the modern Gila River Indian community, the pyrite mirrors were unstudied. I thought that the pyrite mirrors were a very interesting topic and that I'd find a lot of information on them, said Dr. Emiliano Galaga of Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History, who took part in the repatriation. I don't know that fucking
Repatriation is when you
And
restore
it's-
something to its original owner.
So I'm just gonna say repatriation or
And
restoration.
Repatriation.
Repatriation. Sweet Lord, how have I
It's
never?
pronounced Gila.
Okay,
Gila River.
it's just. I'm sorry. Okay, jeez. Okay. Anyways, the point is
I'll
that
just
they
read it, man. You
found.
want me to read it?
No, I don't want you to read it. Listen.
Just kidding.
No, there's a bunch of mirrors found, but they were golden mirrors. They were fake gold, pyrite, and I just found that to be fascinating. Thinking about our ancestors walking around with mirrors. They were hand mirrors. They weren't like I said earlier, check your hair or anything mirrors. Like, this is how big of a part of culture that mirrors were at a point in our history, that they were so important to you and so important to spirituality and so important to connecting to spirit, that they would have them on them for massive amounts of different purposes, whether that be navigation, whether that be for safety, whether that be for communication, or looking at the stars, or divining and talking to God on your journeys. Like, that just blows my mind, and it's fascinating, and I love thinking about our ancestors with such spiritual ties like that.
Let me throw down one thing to mirror the old world and the new world. Dylan Sakosho, he's working on a 5th book, should have another book out this year. Dude is unstoppable, but that book is going to have a lot of research into Mexico and how his theory is that the conquistadors, their real goal, and why they wouldn't allow anybody who was learned in letters at all, other than Jesuits, to come to the New World until the empires there had been thoroughly destroyed. His theory is because anybody that had even a little bit of symbolic literacy and understanding would see what was going on with the cultures in Mexico and realize, oh, our entire Roman Catholic thing here is not the original thing we thought it was. Look, it's already over here. Same exact type of deal. And going back to the whole Buddha weave, the point of why I'm bringing this up is Mexica, the Xica. Well, I and A are very close, and even philologically, you can go A to I or I to A all day.
I be the capstone to the A.
One of the names for Buddha is Xaca, Xaca. So the Empire of Xaca, Mexico. So anyway, that's like very interesting thread to go down, and it's also why so much of the given history on Mexico and South America and the New World is to be regarded as extremely sus. As we know, when we start looking at the ancient architecture that appears to be all over the Americas, like they wouldn't allow anybody to come to the New World. And the Spaniards, who were one of the evilest empires ever, Queen Isabella, they wouldn't allow anybody learned to come at all. Yet they also tell us that these dirty, grubby Spanish soldiers are who built these amazing Roman-style aqueducts that with concrete technology that can't be replicated today. They also tell us that the reason why over 50% of rituals in places like Peru for magical ceremony are mirroring occultism in the West with like specific wacky shit that they do that you wouldn't just come up with in 2 different places. It's too, bizarre and specific. They tell us, oh, they just picked up that occultism from the Spaniards who came over. But the Spaniards who came over were not allowed to come over if they knew anything about anything other than Jesuits. So there's all that.
Yeah, I want to point out a random fact I picked up today that is probably a nice keystone that we'll be riffing on a lot in the future. Is Constantine sent his mother to basically rewrite much of history, and she is a saint, and she is called uh, Helena of Constantinople, but she's the patroness of difficult marriages and archaeology. And for anybody who has a hard time realizing that those are the same fucking thing, archaeology is the art of making two cultures, melding them, or actually fusing them
Syncretism.
together, or separating them from their actual roots. It's just so telling that Hella, and the Hellenization of all culture, she is the patroness of archaeology and difficult marriages. It
So
says
who
it
you're
all
talking
right
about here, Constantine, very possibly a astrotheological allegory, not a real person. Anyone that's the
Right.
son of Helen, extremely sus. Extremely
yeah.
sus. I mean,
And-
who we got the Virgin Mother is also Helen of Troy. Helen the most beautiful.
Right.
You have
Right.
Heracles. Heracles is the pride of the lady. The lady is Hera. Remember the LR switch? Hera, Hella.
Yep.
And who is the goddess of the underworld in
Helocles?
Odinism? Hela.
Yes.
Hela is Virgo, I'm pretty sure. And
nice.
Virgo is the Persephone, the dark twin of the whole like Isis, Nephthys, Mary, Myrti, Mary and Martha thing. Even going back to Vishnu, Vishnu is depicted in statues and carvings with the beautiful Lakshmi on one side and Saraswati on the other. I don't know, guys. I think we're all looking at the same cult everywhere we go. And that the history has been created. What we call the Middle Ages is probably the time where they just completely, after wiping out huge segments of populations, whoever the they is, or maybe a catastrophe did it, rewrote our history with these mythological allegories.
Right.
And we have no idea what really was going on.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
I have many theories on that, and I would love to riff with Dylan Sicosio because I have many conquistador theories as well, because I am fascinated, infuriated by the conquistadors and this the whole occultic clan that like is a part of all the Western esoteric of, you know, the capstone motherfuckers. But you know, that's where this I think everybody knows that it's so deeply embedded into our collective unconscious that that's why the Tartaria and the mud flood theme is huge, because I don't think most of the people that are talking about mud flood know what the fuck they're talking about, but they feel what they're talking about because they're feeling something about the time period around the Protestant Reformation, that whole like during the time when the Renaissance happened. I mean, the term Renaissance itself says it all, you know. They
Tartarus, Tartarus, the underworld, under the mud, under the earth, could be also kind of an allegorical thing.
Yeah.
And the TB switch in a lot of languages. So the Tartars, the Tartary, the
Barbers.
Barbary, the
Yeah.
barbarians. The barbarians are anybody that are not part of the, you know, the cult, the ruling cult, any of the outsiders.
And so now you think they're resurfacing it again to see who is going to be inept and who's going to be adept?
Could be, or it could be some weird eternal return of how, you know, the other bizarre thing about all this is, yeah, the priest classes has a lot to do with crafting language and inserting symbolism all over the place, but also there's a lot of aspects that seem to naturally arise out of the living language. So it's hard to say which is which. Like, are these things emerging in our collective consciousness now to like reflect to us where we've come from and where we've been, but we're just not really seeing the whole picture or seeing deep enough into the mirror? I don't know.
Holy shit. Oh my God. Okay. I just thought about this while you're saying that, because it fucking just rings pretty true to some shit I've been riffing on for a while. I'm like, how how can I ever find a way to explain the cosmic code or name archetypes? Like, why does this unconscious fulfillment happen with people with certain fucking names that do things that their name relates to, whether they know it or not? Like, is this guy being controlled like a fucking puppet, or is he making his own choices? Are we in a
Like word magic.
simulation?
Well, that's why the
Exactly.
Egyptians had a concept of that one of the bodies that we are as multidimensional beings is the Ren, which is the name. That your name is as much a body as your physical body.
It's a vessel.
The Ba, the Ka, the Ib being the heart. The Ib is the heart, but also the heart is the scribe or the recorder in the ancient Egyptian. And you have the letters IB, Ib, in the word scribe, or even right in the middle of the Bible, the Ib, the ibis-headed Thoth, who was the scribe of the gods and the grantor of language.
IB.
So think about your heart. You know, when we're syncretizing this language, this green language, the green is the heart chakra. We are hearing with our third ear, the ear in the middle of our heart.
Yo. And dude, when you feel resonance through your heart chakra, where your toroid is starting, when you feel a sound permeate and you feel like, oh, I mean, you know, I've been through a lot of heartbreak, boys. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. It's hard for me to keep them around. You know what I mean? But
Scorpio killer.
when
Yo, but by the way, language of the birds, bird has ib backwards in the beginning of it.
Now, we could do an entire 3-part episode on the massive amount of esotericism behind the symbology of birds and the history of birds, and that would be fascinating. And actually, I'm going to write that in my notes because I think would you guys dig that as a series?
Dude, I got a lot about birds.
Yeah, I know you do, baby.
Bird is the word. Have you heard?
I
don't know if the people are ready for all the gravy we've already uncorked in this one conversation. They might be chilling on this for a long time.
Let's get to
we're never gonna
get to this one. No, let's get to this one character. Okay. Hall of Mirrors definition: a confusing or disorienting situation in which it is difficult to distinguish between truth and illusion or between competing versions of reality. Yeah. So this is a Hall of Mirrors. That is this is many halls. This is a living commune and living art commune in Italy. It's called Demanhur at the Temples of Humankind. And where do we?
There's that dam again.
It's a 13 segmented star at the top.
Yeah, there's that dam again. That dam. The ADM, the atom, or the dam or dom, like Notre Dame. The Old English word for mother is dam, D-A-M. Adamu means earth. Dam backwards is mad, like madre, mother. And also, I was just looking at the word hall because we're talking about Hall of Mirrors. Hall is hell, is Helios, but it's also got in it the all and the 11.
Nice.
You have Archimedes on there. Have some shit on Archimedes.
I know. I just want to show you guys this building really quick. I thought I had a hyperlink in that slide. It was supposed to, but I was doing this at like 2 a.m. But check out this incredibly esoteric living art community. So this is in Italy. And I'm going to go here. This is fucking tight.
This is crazy. Dama on her.
Oh, it's super occult. It's super occult,
female,
dude. Look at this complex.
Underground.
They have everything here.
Wow.
And
Those
it's in
pillars.
Italy. It's
Those
in
pillars
Italy.
were like 11, 11, 11, 11, 11 all the way through.
I'm telling you, this is probably one of the most occult and esoteric buildings that you can go and experience in the now.
Looks like a fucking cult.
It is a cult.
It is a
But
cult.
it is
Oh.
occult, my brew. And so they have all these temples. My computer's running super slow right now. I got a bunch of shit going on in the background like a dummy. But they got the Hall of mirrors. They got the Hall of Spheres. They got the Hall of Water. They have Labyrinth, the Blue Temple, Hall of Metals, the Hall of the Earth, and the Hall of Victory. What do you guys want to? You guys want to check out? I guess we'll check out the Hall of Mirrors first. And
Yo, this place is wild. I've never heard of this.
we should go.
Of course, it's in Italy.
Of course. No, this is Tiffany stained glass. This is made by Tiffany.
There's those freaking Maltese Knights.
Yep.
Now,
Look at this fucking building, dude.
If I'm not mistaken, too,
Maltese, Martha.
this guy, the guy that started this, did this all on his own. He started it on his own, and then got so many people into building this thing with him that the cult actually started around the building, around him doing the building. And it wasn't him that did it, it was the building that
Wow.
kind of drew all the cult to it.
That is
Wow, that is
nuts, dude.
wild.
That is nuts. I have to look more into the history of that. But listen to these guys' interpretation of the mirror. The Hall of Mirrors. The myth represented in this hall tells of the divinity that enters from the world of forms, fragmenting itself like a mirror into countless pieces. Each piece keeps a peculiarity of reflecting the absolute, although it cannot contain the whole any longer. Seeing our image reflected in the Hall of Mirrors reminds us of our divine origin, the same origin that permeates any expression of life. At the center of the ceiling, a beautiful Tiffany stained glass dome illuminates the entire hall with warm solar light, which is reflected in the game of mirrors underneath. The images and colors represented in the hall are multiplied time and time again by analogy. Our human eyes and mind open up to new perspectives. The sound of
I got to jump in on the word game of mirrors.
I know, right?
Game, gamos. Gamos means marriage.
Yep.
Marriage is the two pillars coming together. Loving.
Yep. I
Yep.
saw it too,
Gamos,
Chance. I was on it.
Game of mirrors.
It's GOMU, Game of Mirrors underneath. It's Gamu right there. Eros Gamos.
Oh, trip out, dude. Yeah, I was wondering what was up with that. I was like, oh, Game of Mirrors. And when you look back at the temple, like these are mirrors. These are like the original obsidian mirrors here, down here on the floor. Right? And I mean it's actually oh shit. These are mirrors on the wall, but it looks like that black circle, right, is like an obsidian mirror and it's being reflected back. I mean, like,
go back to the previous one.
This is the ceiling.
You see that ibis head at the very bottom?
Right here? Yeah, bud. Look at this.
Look down at the very bottom. That's the ibis head. Or a falcon head. Probably that's actually more of a falcon head, like Horus. Yeah.
like
okay.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a falcon.
Either way, though, I mean, birds can be interchangeable. And then you have all these like horses. So Tiffany is super famous for building. He built all of the windows in the Henry Flagler hotels that we brought up, in the Florida episodes, and then he built all the Rockefeller buildings, or the glasses, did windows, stained glass windows on Jekyll Island. So super famous glassmaker, which is nuts.
I just counted the different sections around that mandala. And there's 13 sections, which is really hard to pull off. You don't do that on accident. That is really, really intentional. So
Totally.
I would love to know more about that if they publish
Tiffany?
information on it. Oh no, I'm talking about the stained glass window that you just showed with the falcon head. So there's 13 sections, it's like when you're making this kind of stuff, all of that is very, very intentional. And there's certain numbers that are easier to work with, like even numbers, so 12 would have been much easier than 13.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just really fascinating. So it makes me wonder if they're actually referencing either the 13th sign, a fucus, or just the completion of the 12 sort of step system that is like the zodiac, and then the 13th would be like all of it complete, or whatever you want to say. Maybe the North
letter
Star
of the alphabet.
13th letter in the alphabet is M.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It's in the middle. It's the M idol. It's in the middle of the alphabet, and the artist name is Tiffany. Well, that's Tifereth. Tifereth is the center of the tree of life. It's the beautiful
Oh,
one,
trip
shining
out.
from the center.
Yeah, Tifereth meaning masculinity and beauty. Masculinity.
I love it.
Mm, oh, this is the Hall of Spheres, bro. What? Like, yes. I am
Wow.
trying to
Spheres
go
and
vibe
mirrors.
out. Spheres and mirrors.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, dude.
They go hand in hand. Crystal balls, right?
And
Oh,
there's
yeah.
Scrying.
and there's those holy grails, HG, mercurial HG, that we found in our boy Lucas King's work when he brought forward the flower of life, and we saw the chalice hiding inside of the petals of the flower of life.
Isn't it H.G. Wells too? The dystopian author.
Oh.
H.G. Wells. There you go.
Holy grail on holy ground, all of the mercury.
Are those lions?
Right there,
Yeah.
the griffins.
Oh,
I
griffins.
think they have wings. Oh shit! dude,
Gotcha.
it keeps sliding the picture. Yeah, let's go in a little bit, and don't slide. Zoom, you fucker. Whatever, dude. Yeah, I think they're the ones with the wings. They got chicken wings on their back. Wings. Okay. But so I had to show you guys that one. It was kind of a little bit of a side tangent, but holy
No, that's
shit.
really cool.
Quite a
Right?
Into it.
tangent, dude.
So
Could
much
be its own
detail.
show, just like decoding that whole place. Let's go there.
Dude, I'm serious. Please. Oh my gosh. So 2023 is hopefully going to be the year. So 2019 was like fucking really cherry for me. Like I was really stoked about 2019 because 2020 I was going to go to Australia and do this whole work trade thing I had lined up, all these travel plans for 2020. And then, and so now it's time. It is time to get back out and travel. And this is what I'm encouraging everybody to do, to go to the sacred sites in the next few years. I'm telling you, there's a huge transformation happening. And the more people that go and explore and travel and connect across the celestial planes, the huge vibrational shift will sweep you up. It'll give you a huge fucking kiss, and it'll tongue bathe you until you are so wet that you will fall asleep into the cosmic goopy goodness of the conscious mother. Okay? That's what's fucking happening. That's the transition that's upon us. I
That
swear
made
to
my
God.
nipples hard, Roman. Kind of turned me on with that one, bro.
Good.
Yeah, I
I
should
should
go
just start
for
an
tongue bathing.
ASMR channel.
I'm down. Will you be my first sub, bub?
Absolutely, bro.
Okay, cool. Okay, so the historical accounts of Archimedes, the warfaring inventions, are vivid and possibly exaggerated. But it is claimed that he devised catapult launchers that threw heavy beams and stones at the Roman ships, burning glasses that reflected the sun's rays and set ships on fire, and either invented or improved upon a device that would remain one of the most important forms of warfare technology for almost 2 millennia. The catapult. Plutarchos and Polybios describe giant mechanisms for lifting ships from the sea, ship-burning mirrors, and a steam gun built by Archimedes. Archimedes' discoveries are catoptrics are reported. It is said that Archimedes prevented one Roman attack on Syracuse by using a large array of mirrors, speculated to have been highly polished shields, to reflect sunlight onto the attacking ships, causing them to catch fire. And the popular legend has been tested many times since the Renaissance and often discredited, as it seemed the ships would have been virtually motionless and are unlikely. That's unlikely during a battle. And then it goes on to say here that then they tried it later and that it is a possibility that that could happen. And I will just say some of the videos I watch of people that have lenses in their backyard that melt metal, I'm pretty fucking sure you can catch some wood on fire, even if it's moving, because I've seen it literally melt metal.
I think they tried that
Yeah.
on Mythbusters too. The whole putting a mirror on a ship and trying to see if it actually worked. I think they did that on Mythbusters, if I'm not mistaken, one day.
What was the result?
I don't remember. This is years ago.
Man, I'm curious.
But I want to say that they did. Let me look it up.
So you know how there used to be all these cathedrals in line, and they would have the basilicas, and they would have bells, and the bells go back to ancient Veda and ancient Egypt, not ancient Asia, and the bells have been ripped out of society. Okay, because we once lived at a time where resonance was incredibly important to tune and to communicate, because when our bodies are tuned, our communication abilities are very heightened, right? Our psychic abilities are heightened when you're constantly in the perfect vibratory state. So I just want to mention that this mirror is right outside of what looks like it could be a bell tower building, or it's an incredibly important building. I'm sure that there are some bells around, or basilicas, or some sort of, oh sweet lord, some sort of sorry, I clicked on this thing. Anyways, the point I'm getting at is, what do you guys think about the concept of, so mirrors are created as a replication of water, right? The original mirror was water. And the story of Hippocrates, and was looking in the mirror, and he's like, I'm so fucking beautiful. Oh my God, I love you. And he's like, yeah. And then we created mirrors as a stem off of hydromancy. Well, water ripples, and water is a portal to another world, another reality. You can't live underwater. It's another world that you can't even access for a long period of time, unless you were to have completely different physiological and biological beings, right?
That's what Kundalini is, and that's why you have altered states of consciousness where you can't stay there. But through Kundalini, you literally alter your biology. So is it to be able to to be in these higher levels of consciousness for longer periods of time, for prolonged times.
And thank you for that. Kundalini's beautiful. Out-of-body experiences are insatiably important. And
hey, gentlemen, I got a jet. I only had 2 hours, but I'll be listening to this later to see where you guys go.
Nice.
Love, Chance.
Thank you for
looking good, brother. Love the new cut.
Oh, hell yeah.
Love the nipples.
Same, bro. Handsome.
Sure.
Awesome insight.
All right, later, y'all.
Peace, man. Thank you for coming out. Okay, basically I'm getting to the long and skinny here. What if the bells and the basilicas helped heighten the potentiality of portals in mirrors? Like if mirrors could be, or if metal, if like mercury or something could be tuned to a specific frequency and the matter state of it could change, what if that was like how portals were possibly used back in the day?
I dig that. Mercury is the god of portals, transitional spaces, liminal space, and mirrors are made out of quicksilver, mercury, such elements. So if you charge them or give them some sort of sacred science treatment, all kinds of things could be possible. And somebody already pointed it out, but that's what Neo steps into in his initiation point in the Matrix. And just today I was looking at the word shine, SHINE. And when you reverse it, when you look at it in the mirror, you get ENISH, the beginning of initiated.
Oh shit. Nice.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, very interesting thought.
That's interesting for sure. I like the fact that you brought up Shine, and I just watched The Shining again for a show I'm doing next week or whenever. And
Really?
literally, there's like several mirror magical scenes, including seeing murder written backwards in a mirror, and it's red rum, right? So, but regarding the bell, I was just gonna say, when you look into bell symbolism, you're probably gonna come across the fact that the bell is symbolic of the universe, essentially, and that the universe has been compared to a bell. And and God said, let there be light. So just the idea of frequency and speaking things into manifestation and what have you. So I think that the bell, I mean, you could do a whole episode on that, honestly, if you wanted to.
Oh yeah.
But then it also reminds me of the Nazi bell, which a lot of people said that this wasn't even like an actual craft that was meant to go from A to B or wherever.
Portal.
It's actually, yeah, it opened up a gateway or a portal, and that it was time traveling or what have you. So, you know, I don't think that they would have picked the bell shape for no reason. In fact, my understanding is that they actually downloaded a lot of that information from beings from elsewhere, including Aldebaran, which is you know, a giant star in Taurus.
You
So
you MF, because you knew I wanted to go into the Nazis and the occult on this episode.
I
And-
did, yeah.
Oh, dude, the Nazi belt, because they built this platform for it. They built this platform in a very, I can't remember if it was like Poland. It was somewhere so weird.
I think it is Poland.
Is it
I
Poland?
could be wrong. Yeah,
Okay.
I believe you're right though.
I just pulled it out of my ass, but I Polanded it out of my. Okay, so they built this platform, and it was just like, what is this? A landing pad for this, you know, ether energy device? Like, what is this? But, you know, I think they were so tapped into this sacred geometry and the math magic, the math magical, or what was it, math magician earlier? They were math magicians, and yeah, man, like such a trip, dude. I can't even riff on it because it's blowing my mind as I'm thinking about it. It's hard for me to communicate after just having my mind ruptured so many fucking times. But
You know, one thing I want to point out here, I've been seeing it more and more. The frame of this image right here. You see how the bottom two corners, I mean, it's a mirror of, you know, in those bottom two corners, you see how it's like a shark fin shape?
yeah,
I am beginning to believe that that is indicating to those who know the anvil.
whale
of
tail.
I think it's an anvil of the Smith's Forge. And
Oh.
I see it more and more now. And with the context of the Smith's Forge and the anvil, we are looking at a masterpiece of metallurgy in the image here. And so I just want to put that in everybody's mind. The more I see this anvil shape, the more I think of those who worship Vulcan, those who are really into metallurgy. They even an anvil cloud is the precursor to a tornado. It's something else to think about, that there is a big, even in our
Super Vulcan.
Yes.
That's a
It's-
trip.
Oh
Beautiful.
shit!
That's
That's a
interesting, man.
wow. Do you guys listen to, or I'll send all you guys my episode. I think I sent Mario it too, but I had this guy on, Philip Lindsay, who he's a theosophist and he's an astrologist. He made this concept called esoteric astrology. It's literally called esoteric astrology. And I don't, dude, like you guys are so much further along in your astrological understanding and the zodiacal understanding than I am. I'm like, I studied completely other shit because I have you fucking beautiful zodiacal minds around for when I have questions. But there's this concept of these veiled planets, and that the planets go through these levels of ascension as they're they're literally called initiated planets. Earth is not an initiated planet. It's on its initiatory process, and Vulcan is a veiled planet, and it does exist. And I've even looked it up. Like, you can even look it up on NASA. Vulcan is a planet, and it's in between, I believe, Mercury and the Sun, but it's
Yes.
veiled by another planet. And a lot of people don't fucking know that Vulcan itself, I mean, yeah, it's absolutely astrotheologically tied because, you know, we have the god Vulcan, right? But it's literally also a planet, and so is a lot of other things in Greek. But, you know,
Yeah.
it's crazy because the more you look at it, you find the veiled planet is the veiled esoteric meaning behind metallurgy, which is this
Right.
esoteric art and science. Like,
Yeah.
whole brah.
Yes.
That's awesome,
You know,
dude.
you know what else? Let's even take it to a whole nother level. Let's do
Perfect.
let's take this image and let's imagine in our mind cutting it in half and juxtaposing left to right and right to left.
Yeah.
And if we did that with the frame, we would have an upside down holy grail, which could be construed as a bell.
Oh, it would be.
When it's upside down, or you
Mm.
could hold it upright and it becomes a sacred chalice right here. I mean, that frame is so intentional. It's telling you that there's more to be seen.
Yeah, dude. And symbolically, just real quick, that makes a lot of sense because the Holy Grail, along with the mirror and a lot of other symbols, its power is that it receives and projects.
Dude, yes,
You know?
I was gonna fucking say, I was like, yo, cups and mirrors. Like you fill the cup with liquid, that's your hydromancy. You can scry in that liquid. It's like it's like a mirror. Jesus Christ, you guys.
Yeah. So let me just say the thing about Vulcan's mirror that I came across right before the show. So apparently there was a mirror associated with Vulcan and it changed hands a few times. And this mirror was said to show the past, present, and future. And at one point, Cupid even had it. And apparently Penelope received this mirror and she saw the court of Queen Elizabeth when she was scrying. So apparently this was the first tell, mythologically or whatever, that Queen Elizabeth was going to become a thing through Vulcan's mirror, which I think is really fascinating.
Wow. Wow, Mario. Thank you for that.
Wow.
Yeah, totally. I just came across and I was like, okay, I need to share this.
Damn it. I don't think I even put the Vulcan slides in here now I'm looking at it. Oh, go ahead, Gordy.
Just to go back to Gabe, when you were talking about shine, every time they talk about the initiate in any of these like Hermetic books and mystic books, it's about bringing them into the light. They always use initiate, bringing them into the light. It's always the shine.
Yes.
It's always the same thing.
Yes. And, help me out. What is the actress that played Princess Leia? What's her name?
Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher. So she wrote a book, apparently. And in her book, she talks about something that she calls the shine. And she says that certain celebrities have the shine.
Dude, that's her book? I've heard about this.
Yes. And this goes back to the placenta methamphetamine episode from Mysterious Universe, where they were talking about Maxwell Jacobson producing a form of methamphetamines that includes the placenta, and it gives people this shine, this charisma of unmeasurable, unappreciated value. And so I just wanted to add that all into your work, Mario. If you're going to go into The Shining, Carrie Fisher talks about it in the Mysterious Universe episode on placenta methamphetamines and Maxwell Jacobson. It's all there and it's all crucial.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm going to look into it. That's awesome. Thank you for that.
That is nuts.
Danny.
Can you pull up the picture I sent on Telegram, please?
Yeah. And Danny in The Shining, he was born with in the book, not in the film, but in the book, he was born with the placenta on his head. And so was his mentor, the fellow who was who taught him the ropes at the hotel there. So I just want to throw that all on the table.
Oh, gotcha. Nice. Okay. That's awesome. I don't remember that, but I did read the book. Anyways, go ahead, Gordy.
Sorry. In the initiation to Hermetics, it talks about using your making black and white mirrors of the soul.
Zoom in.
You guys see that?
Zoom in.
Yeah. Okay.
Zoom in more. Black and white mirrors of the soul.
Yeah. It's a whole chapter. I'm gonna have to read it.
Dude, that's
you want to bibliomancy it? For instance, you will ascribe jealousy, hatred, vindictiveness, irascibility. This is I think talking about the inner working, like mirror gazing, going inward.
Yeah, man. And
talking about irascibility, anger, and the fiery element, frivolity. So it goes through all of our mediocrity, in other words, to burn it out. This is part of the alchemy of it, to burn out our mediocrity for greatness, taking us from the matter to the immaterial, from the darkness to the shine, to the light.
Holy shit, you're right, dude. And yin and yang too, right? Brings it back to that concept.
Right.
right? And in the alchemical process, when you burn something, it becomes white like ash, but it's not done. You stir the ash and it reduces down to blackness again. And you have to burn it
Yep.
another time. And
Yep.
then it becomes
Mhm.
white like ash. And then you
Yep.
mix it and it becomes black again.
Yep.
And you have to do it repeatedly.
And the thing
Right.
is with the Philosopher's Stone is you can literally separate it and bring it back together as many times as you want. But just know that once you get to be that Philosopher's Stone, you can be separated and you can lose that. And I think that's a concept of being born again in reincarnation. It's like, hey, you had one life and you created your Philosopher's Stone. You got to your old age and you fucking went to the ether, and thus you went unto the other side, the portal. And your stone was shiny. You were the mirror. You were the crystal. You were the Christos. You were the fucking your magnum opus. And then you get brought back in. You get separated. Your salts. You got to find everything on that fucking hero's journey yet again. And it's a very old allegory that comes all the way back from the fucking rising from the ashes and the phoenix, and then the Bennu bird. Even further from that, from our ancient Egyptian ancestry. Shit, baby. All right, let's get back to some slides here because I really want to share with you guys this one fucking character that I found where and I think Gordy, you were alluding to you were alluding earlier, if I'm not mistaken, to Pepper's Ghost. Is it right? Pepper's Ghost?
Yes, Pepper's Ghost.
Okay, Pepper's
We
Ghost.
shall mesmerize the populace with Pepper's Ghost and smoke and mirrors.
So sorry, that was hilarious. Smoke and mirrors. Okay, so the term smoke and mirrors came from this man, Johann Georg Schroeffer. Johann drove Schroeffer coined the concept of smoke and mirrors as a common feature of stage magic in the 19th century phantasmagoria shows. The illusion technique traditionally used a magic lantern or an image projector and a light source to cast onto the conjured smoke into thin air to portray illusions of flotation, existence, and disappearance of objects. Now, this guy has an interesting story. It's fascinating. Let me just give you guys a little context on this guy. This is his Wikipedia page for a second. He was considered a necromantic mason. So Johann Georg Schroeffer was a German charlatan, independent Freemason, and necromancer. He performed ghost-raising seances for which he secretly used special effects, possibly including magic lantern projections of ghost on smoke, which inspired the Phantasmagoria shows popular in Europe from the 1790s to the 1830s. Little is certain about Schroeffer's life. Many accounts stem from their adherent opposing Freemasons, and Schroeffer himself was an imposter who told many lies about himself.
Holy shit. Hold on. I just found an anagram in the word phantasmagoria. I'm
Yeah.
not even fucking with you. Panta Heros Gamos. It means everything is erotic games of the gods. Everything. Panta Heros Gamma.
Wow.
Panta Heros Gamma is a perfect anagram. There's no letters missing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
That was fucking
super curious about that because this guy is super fascinating character because he considered himself an independent Freemason, meaning he had all this esoteric knowledge, all this information, and he considered himself to know more about the Masons than the Masons knew about the Masons. That's why the Masons said, fuck you. They said, fuck you, dude. Like, you're not a fucking Freemason. So, and then he later was shot, right? So Schroeffer's year of birth is often stated to be 1730 and sometimes 1739, but he was baptized in Nuremberg on March 26, 1738. He was listed as the 8th child of a host of Zum Rothen Robe. Father Schroeffer later ran for the Golden Lamb and seems to have gone bankrupt in 1753. Johann Georg reportedly served for some time as a hussar in the Prussian army at the start of the 7 Years' War. Now, what happens when you break the mirror? Oh, yeah. However, he also claimed to have a cavalry commander with the Imperial troops that received many wounds in battle. Although the autopsy report clearly stated that no scars or signs of old injuries were found on his body, he came to Leipzig in 1759 and started as a cooper, a controller of goods, in Hotel des Sacs. He became a citizen of the city in August 1761 and was registered as a waiter. 1720, 1761, or September 20th, 1761, he married Johanna Katharina Herr, or whatever, the daughter of the quartermaster of the local tailors. She was already highly pregnant and soon gave birth to their first daughter. In 1769, they purchased oh fuck, my German is not good. Welsendeichisch coffee house. With Johanna's money. It was a cafe and a billiard room in the very center of the town. Let's just get to his Masonic and necromantic sessions here. Okay. Schreffer had most likely never experienced a Freemason lodge meeting when he started on his own lodge of true Masonry. Nonetheless, he claimed to be the sole person with knowledge of the real secrets of Masonry and to be able to communicate with the spirit world. He also claimed to be in touch with the true Masons in England. When asked about this, they wrote in reply, "Mr. Schreffer is totally unknown in our Grand Lodge, and indeed has lately been represented to us from Berlin as a very trifling and ridiculous person, not worthy of any notice or countenance. He is thought to have gained most of his knowledge about masonry through magazines, books, and from listening to many Freemason patrons who he waited on, who spoke quite freely about their Freemason secrets, plans, and activities. He reportedly stole some of the magical documents and Freemason scriptures of Duke von Halsten Gottorp during the 7 Years' War and learned more about magic from a merchant in Frankfurt in Maine. This merchant would have also supported him financially and brought him into contact with Freemasons in Braunschweig. By the year 1771, he had very good contacts with rich nobility in the Catholic monasteries near the borders of Bohemia and Silesia. He performed magical works in Soraru before the Masons in Leipzig even knew about him. For a typical night of necromantic activity, Schreffer's followers would fast for 24 hours and were served an Italian salad, possibly drugged. And and much punch before midnight started the seance in a darkened room with black draped altar. A robed Schreffer performed the rituals and demanded his followers to remain seated at a table, or face terrible dangers if they didn't. He made use of mixture of Masonic, Catholic, and Kabbalistic symbolism, including skulls, chalk circle on the floor, holy water, incense, and crucifixes. He started with a long prayer that addressed Jesus Christ, God, the Holy Trinity, asking for protection of good spirits. He usually raised 3 different ghosts, one good soul and beautiful white, one neutral and subdued white, and one evil and awful brown and black. The arrival of ghosts was mostly accompanied by a sound of that of wet fingers on glass, which sometimes grew louder and continued on for about an hour.
Yo, wet fingers on glass. What does that sound like? You imagine, bro, you're at this seance and you just what the fuck?
It just sounds like a wacky wall crawler.
Dude, I don't even want to know whose wet fucking sloppy sludge fingers were on that glass too. I'm like, what little creepy ass fools behind it? But anyways, I don't want to even go too much deeper into this, but dude, this guy is an interesting character.
Yeah.
He brought on the movement of spiritualism like a motherfucker, and using mirrors and psychomantiums and all that. So he's a huge proponent in that.
So one thing this kind of touches on something I wanted to bring to the conversation, and something that you guys brought in the last shows was the idea of sonic mirrors or sound mirrors.
Oh,
which were the precursors to radar. And I got to point
Sonic
out,
the Hedgehog do?
Well, I got into the sonic mirror. I looked it up, and I want to point out radar is a palindrome. You can flip radar. It's a mirror of itself, RADAR. But just before the radars were publicly in use, and they replaced these sonic mirrors. These sonic mirrors are giant. They look like stone dish satellite dishes,
Mm-hmm.
and they point them at the sky to detect incoming aircraft from afar. And today they use these sonic mirrors on kids' playgrounds all over the place. And children can be up to 100 yards removed from each other, and they can whisper into one of these dishes, and it will project the voice to a child 100 yards away, and they can hear the whisper as though they're right next to one another. And so those devices are actually still in use on the island of Malta. And when I did some of the researching, some of these militarized sonic mirrors are still in place on the island of Malta. They're still there, and they're still, viable or feasible to be used. If if the grid goes down, you can still use this older technology if you needed to. It's like could be under the radar, so to say. But the fact that it's on the island of Malta got my hairs tingling, and all my bells and whistles were going off, because it is in the island of Malta that I believe, I think it's Jordan Maxwell who put this forward, that there's an initiation ritual, much like what we're describing here, with like all the illusion you could ask for, where they get an initiate to kneel on a Maltese cross in the catacombs down in the underground, in the underbelly of Malta. They kneel in this special location. They probably took a sacrament, some sort of drugs like the salad, right? And in that location, they are targeted to a sonic trick of the mind, where somebody who wants to manipulate their thoughts can be in a far removed chamber, and they can whisper all the magic words to give this person a voice to skull technology experience. And the initiate can be convinced very easily from that position, from that point of vulnerability. They can be initiated to be put on a mission from God. They can come to believe that they are on a mission from God. And they're probably looking at the head of Baphomet while it happens.
What the fuck?
Dude, okay, I am convinced that's what that structure, that cross structure that they build the churches are. Because when you're in the wings, you know how, Romy, you were talking about the structure, the layout of cathedrals is a cross, right? There's the lengthwise where the congregation sits, and then the top part where the priest is, where the altar is, and then there's the two wings on the side. Son of Your mission right here, speaking of being in Mexico, is domed on both of those sides. So you can be on one side of the building, and you're over there on the other side doing your little prayers and your candles and stuff, and be hearing voices, and you won't know where those voices are come from. But yeah, it's voice to skull for sure.
And just real quick too, you relate this to MK Ultra, right, Gabe?
Big time. Yes.
Yeah. And so one of the classic symbols of MK Ultra is the broken mirror. It's symbolic of the fragmented mind. And so that's like one of the pop culture references that you're going to see time and time again in so many music videos and things like that, right? Is that broken mirror. So there's that.
And Moon Knight.
Yeah. I haven't seen all of it. But
and I want to add that I sent you a link there in the chat, the Integratron, and it's a building that was supposedly, the instructions for this building and this contraption was given to George Van Tassel, a UFOologist that was tied to Margie Cameron. We know Margie Cameron was in the second wife of Jack Parsons, but this was given to him through a communication with Nikola Tesla. Okay, so he built this building. Now it's very interesting because you can go there today, and he was like the pioneer of UFOlogy here in the States, and he helped create the Ashtar Galactic Command. And this Integratron, which is his building, you can go there for a sound bath, right? And what Gabe was saying, where these kids will go, and whisper a little thing here. Well, this thing was designed so well that people can, how you said, go on one end and whisper, and they can hear it on the other end because the acoustics in the room. Now they do like sound healing and all this shit. You can go there now. You can book your they call it a sound bath, and I've been wanting to go. I think it's in Arizona or somewhere in the Mojave. I think that's California, but they do these sound healing sessions, and it's really interesting because people say they actually feel like when they do whatever it is with their sound bowls and all this stuff, they feel rejuvenated after the fact, and it's like a meditation. People lay there and just sit in silence. I guess I don't know, but how would it work if like you're trying to fart on one end of the fucking room and you're like. Like, does it show up on the other end? Like
you're trying to squeeze it out, like cough at the same time and squeeze it out. But no, that guy caught it. He's like, that guy farted, man.
There's a fucking ghost in here.
Fucking ghost is farting.
It would be amazing if the smell transfers with perfect accuracy.
You say smell. But let's not forget that in seances and when it comes to like demonology and all this stuff, like smell is like a big thing for the entities on the other side. They're like, we don't want your fucking stench, Like, you wash your asshole, John D. and Edward Kelly, because we're coming through. And so it's like they're real big on smell and like and incense and shit like that.
Yep, I dig that.
I want to go there and get a sound bath.
I dropped a link in the chat. It's to a Telegram or a Instagram of this guy that he does the Little Peppers Ghost as kind of an art thing.
Oh,
but it's
let's watch that.
It's like what he'll do is he'll do just like a goldfish or a duck or something like that, but fixes it to an oscilloscope, so it does kind of a. Well, you can see it when you do it, but he uses it to move from old analog. He uses old analog TVs and World War II equipment to be able to make them. But the technology is just the simple glass dome with a piece of plastic stuck in it. Super simple.
Yeah, but I mean, these guys. Oh, shit.
Wow.
That's wild.
Wait, where's the fish at? Oh, fuck, this is a TV down there.
Uh-huh.
Trip
It's an old TV.
Hey, this reminds me of Wonka Vision.
Nice.
So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to, you said, get a white and black image and do what? Put a bowl on top of it?
Well, you can do it. It just has to have a reflective surface. A lot of times you can just use a sheet of plastic that's tilted at a 90 or 45 degree angle, I think it is. And when that is shown up from the bottom, it just looks like a hologram just floating there.
Yeah.
Because no matter where you look, it's the same image.
Interesting.
That is interesting. I was looking at the gematria for the word mirror, and 45 was one of the most simple ciphers. It had that 45, which now that you mention it,
wow.
Or like even in telescopes, when you're looking down to see up, it's got that 45.
Right.
Yeah, that is a crucial angle for mirror magic.
Yeah,
so
it's
now I'm
half a 90, man.
Right. So now I'm really, I think I found out why the 45 was coming up in the gematria of the word. That's pretty,
Nice.
That's pretty dope.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's fascinating
Cool.
for sure.
So good. I don't even know. So another word for ghost is specter. And I found that fascinating because one of the other, side branches of research I do is called antiquated transhumanism, when it's like trying to prove that the holy trinity of Antiquitech was the crown, the scepter, and the globus cruciger. Those three together play an alchemical marriage on the human consciousness and the vibratory state of the body, and allows whoever holds these three things, which is depicted in so many alchemical texts, but also so many famous paintings of very, very important people holding these three things. And I'm like, those are not symbols of power. Those are symbols of ether power, of consciousness and godlike vibratory states. And so I found the word of specter means ghost, and look at down here, you get your phantasm. I love that word. But so I was like, okay, specter and scepter are the same. So I was like, if these three pieces of technology or of the holy trinity of the alchemical battery, right, the hot wire, the ground wire, and the mercurial solution, you would have the hot wire and the ground wire. I think the scepter would be the ground wire, but it would also be maybe the Holy Spirit, because I thought the globus cruciger would be that. I thought the globus cruciger, but the globus cruciger might be the grounding, because because specter and scepter, that it's your wand, so you're pulling out of the air, you're pulling out of the ether
I
with
never
your
pull
with
out.
your wand. But water itself, never pull out, son. Sheesh, grow up, boys. Come on now. Anyways, because you're pulling scepter, you're pulling out the spirits to summon. You're doing your shapes, your mudras, but the globus cruciger has some sort of liquid, and liquid is very grounding. So I'm like, okay, so the crown is the hot wire to everything. It's shooting up, it's funneling, like the rotunda on the buildings, how they shoot and funnel energy. It's exactly the same, especially when you look at the crowns, how they have crosses on top of them, just like the buildings have crosses on top of those spires. It's resemblant of the building. Here we go again. We have the blueprints of, this is a mirror right here. This is fractal, 'cause mirrors are fractal. It's mirroring itself. It's fractalizing. Life is fractal. But you have the blueprints of the building as the shape of a man, right? And then you have the building standing up. That's the bottom. It laying down on the ground is the blueprint. But then you have the vertical part of it, where it's standing up, and you have the head of the building. It's like the dome. They call it the dome. It's your fucking dome, kid. And on top of the dome, they have the spire. Well, they wear these crowns or these helmets, these alchemical creations. This gold that they're wearing, by the way, was not fucking mined gold. This is alchemically created gold by their royal in-house alchemists that were possibly even charging these with some sort of mercurial solution. And that would thus enhance their vibratory state to no other. They were geeking out on this drugs, dude, but these were alchemical creations, technologies that when you pair it with the resonance architecture, you're buzzing like a bee, and you are God, essentially.
Yeah. I can't resist the wordplay here. You take the RE off the end of specter and you rearrange it back onto the front, and you get respect.
Oh,
And it is crucial to respect the guy holding a stick in the room, sitting above you in a throne. So there is that. I'm gonna take a bathroom break.
wow.
Then also continuing with the wordplay thing, you're saying specter and scepter are related, which I agree with you. Scepter, I always think of septenary, and so I think of
Yes.
7. So I think of the Axis Mundi, and then there's a lot of Axis Mundi world pillar symbols that associate with the number 7, like the 7 stars of Ursa Major and Minor that revolve around the North Star, the Pole Star. So when I see scepter, I tend to associate that with it, is the pillar, the world
The
pillar,
chakra points as
essentially.
well.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, there's a million things that associate or correspond with 7 that are
Yeah.
super important, but for sure,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Man.
And then how that goes along your body, right? And we're like symbolic poles, in my opinion. We're p-pole, and so our spine is a pole. And so when you think about the chakras and you think about activating them all, a lot of people make the correspondence with Kundalini energy, right? And it's the 2 serpents going up your spine, so
Wow.
anyway, really cool stuff, dude. I really like your conclusions with some of this. The gold thing, alchemically made in-house gold. That is fascinating.
Dude, it makes so much sense, and
It
it's
does.
esoteric as fuck. It wasn't easy to, you know, fucking, and I still am looking for like the actual factual evidence of like, there's just so many characters to dig into, and you don't want to lightly glaze over a character, because even if they seem insignificant in history, and even if they are a pseudonym made up, like the other day when Juan and I were fucking vibing out on the Patreon episode, and potentially Christopher Columbus never even existed, which now the more I think about it makes so much more fucking sense, because he's the Christ column, he's like the CC, the 33, but apparently in this book it was fucking Saint Germain was Christopher Columbus, and I'm like, it just
What the fuck?
Dig that thought. I dig that thought a lot. In some of my work, I broke down the Christopher Columbus to have very powerful Ophiuchus implications. Ophiuchus is crossing over the galactic void, and there's a lot of images of Christopher Columbus. He's often walking up the steps and kissing the Queen's hand.
And CC is 33. 33.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Ophiuchus.
And he was having prophecies too. I didn't know that part about it, that it was religion fueled. He wanted to make, again, a new world order, a one world religion. He wanted Christianization everywhere. So that's why he set out to genocide people, essentially, because they genocided millions of indigenous people from that point forward. I mean, they just killed people, just tons and tons and tons of motherfuckers. But hey, for the for the name of God, right? Because he's a good guy. So whatever. So yeah, that was fucking
So
crazy.
the column thing with Christopher Columbus, that's really fascinating too, because like I was just saying, the pillar, the pole, the post, the world tree, it's like it's all symbolic of our spine, and we have 33 vertebrae in our spine connecting all of that together. And then I was going to say too that Saint Germain, he's associated with the seventh ray, or 7 rays, and so this seems to be like another thing. He's just, there's a lot of deities that are associated with this polar symbolism that I keep on going on about, and a lot of times it's encoded with 7. And Saint Germain too, I mean, he's associated with Mount Shasta. That's like one of the big storylines with Saint Germain. And so
ascended master, yeah.
yeah, Ascended Master associated with Mount Shasta. And so a lot of these Ascended Masters have an association with a mountain, a world mountain, essentially, right?
Can we,
Or
Gabe,
a world tree, even.
You want to drop the whale stuff on Mario? You want to make his nipples hard, bro?
Oh, yes.
Real quick, let's do that, and then after that, closing thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up at the 3-hour mark, and fucking put this one out for the books, because I feel like this whale tail shit is about to fucking blow some cat backs.
Well, yeah. So you mentioned whale tails. So I had this crazy synchronicity with Nick Hinton, and the whale came up in conversation, and I told Gabe the synchronicity, and he's like, well, at the end of it, it's that John Dee and Edward Kelly were presented God. Now, God was a whale, and it was a whale with many eyes. And the whale opens up its mouth and swallows them. And inside this whale, reality unfolds itself. The 12 gates open, and it's just showing them, just peeling reality back and just blowing their wig back. Like Kelly and Dee are like, oh, shit, yo. So this idea of a huge whale with a bunch of eyes, take it away, Gabe, because he linked it to the North Pole, and I know you like that pole star thing. So
yes. So I'll try to do a lot of information in a very small package, because that was a great conversation. We went for quite a few hours on that topic, but starting with the concept of the Torah is the origin of law. And in a lot of Hebrew mythology, there is a powerful association of Torah for water. And in Christian ethos, they call it the aqua doctrine. It's the water doctrine. And so I just have to point out that the word whale is a phonetic flip of the word law. LAWL becomes whale. And so The whale is the alpha predator of the ocean. It's the granddaddy, apex master bufu of the water. And so venerating the whale, making the whale like the most sacred of the mythology of the Old Testament is a very powerful kind of hailing to the philosophy of the Torah and the water in the association of those two. It also ties into that high priestess card who is carrying the Torah in her lap. Her lap is always a blue spilling fountain of what appears to be water, like a waterfall, spilling off of the Torah scroll in her lap.
The blowhole.
And the
There you
blowhole
go.
of the whale is the fucking North Pole,
The
baby. I
fucking
fucking
hole.
love it. It's the
That's
North
it.
Pole.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. I
So
agree
the
with that.
eye
I'm-
spinning, it's the blowhole. You have the North Star in the center, and the eyes, the star spinning is the eyes. If they ingested some sort of psychedelics, which I don't think they did, they have the many. Oh shit, Kelly, this is fucking wild, bro. They're fucking having a
Totally.
psychedelic trip.
Hell yeah. I'm into
Yeah.
it, dude. So I personally, I associate the North Star and this Axis Mundi, this pillar, with being the third pillar, of Freemasonry. I think that's one of the hidden deep encodes with it, And so when I think of polar symbolism and the world tree and all this stuff, this is how Hermes gets around. This is how Thoth or Mercury gets around. They use this polar axis to go between realms, from the heavens to the underworld or whatever. And some people think that the underworld is actually at the northern sky. That's
Wait,
totally a thing too.
is the Northern Lights the Rainbow Bridge to travel in?
It's the opening of the Rainbow Bridge. It's the cusp.
Oh,
Yes,
brah.
absolutely. Because we're
Can I
dealing
get
with we're dealing with the opening of the magnetic field of Earth. And so the Egyptians referred to this as they thought it was the cusp to the other realm, which it is actually. The stairway to heaven is very much like a real thing in my opinion now. And so they used to refer to this cusp as the horn of a great bull. And I think it's interesting because the electromagnetic field is toroidal in nature, which is a torus field, right? But what I was going to say is that this is a bridge between realms, and it's also symbolic of this third pillar. It's symbolic of the middle way. And as you're talking about the whale, I'm just putting all this together. Whale,
The way to L. Yep.
Exactly. Right. Yes, for sure. The way to L, for sure.
The way
That's
to
awesome,
L.
man.
Shit.
Which is
Way
where
to get to
Saturn.
Saturn.
Well, we
You
don't
should
want to
say-
go there, bro. Because
Yeah, man.
you'll have to assume the submissive position when you get there, if you get what I mean. So
Well, symbolically, the northern sky is the throne of God.
Right.
So it is the way to L.
Well, according to Nick
Yeah.
Hinton, God, the traditional God that we see, is modeled after Kronos, Father Time, the white beard, old man on a throne. so I don't know, man.
I just have to throw this out there. The book that I read about John Dee is when they saw God, they didn't use the author did not say it was a whale. He said it was actually a child.
No, this is
Ooh.
directly from 1659. Merritt Casaubon's A True Relation with Spirits, and John Dee he had uncovered. He had bought a property, and they found John Dee's buried manuscripts and journals and the
What?
seances. And this is directly from the source, no fucking biography. No, this is directly 1659. Fucking boom, bro. They were talking to an angel, and he's like, "Listen, I'm gonna show you God." And he's a fucking whale, and the whale roared like a den of lions, and they opened up its mouth, and they were tripping balls, brother. Like,
Dude,
That's
so
fascinating. I love this, dude, for so many reasons. The water symbolism with that is it's brilliant. So I'm gonna have to look into that. Absolutely.
yeah, we should do a whale episode because just where we
a
just
whale
wrap.
episode, a fucking Apple episode.
Bro, we
Bird
have
episode,
content
magnet
for
episode.
life. We
Magnets. Yep.
have content for life,
Magnets.
you guys.
Birds.
Hey,
Birds. That's right.
everybody go around and do your closing thing. Do whatever you want.
Whoa.
Your final thoughts on mirrors, whatever it is, plug away, do what you're gonna do. Fucking love and respect you guys massively.
Yeah. Big love. Can I go first? I got a couple little visuals I want to share, just so I don't feel like
yeah, baby.
just so I don't feel like I left anything on the table here. Let's see.
We left plenty. Don't worry.
Unless
Yeah,
you
I know.
fucking shit.
Yeah.
All right. Am I sharing? It looks like I'm sharing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you sharing or scrying?
Sharon Peters. That's my sister's name. All right.
That went way out over my head, dude. Wow.
That was kind of gay.
That's my
Sharing Peters, bro. Come on.
when I was in high school, that's what everybody said. They're like, your last name's Peters? Yo, you got a sister named Sharon? So I just threw this together early on the project and I thought I would share it.
Thank you.
This is a something that probably slipped through the radar. You know, this probably had like 1/2 of a second in the Snow White story.
Fucking A, dude.
A lot of people probably missed the fact that she's got a full zodiac.
Is that real?
Yeah, this is from the movie. This is from the cartoon. From Walt Disney.
Really?
This is the original magic
Wow.
mirror in Disney, right? Like, I don't think there
Yeah.
was a magic mirror before this. Afterwards, for sure, but I think this is the original Disney magic mirror movie.
Holy shit.
Yes. And we got to point out that this, you know, this is part of the one of the more powerful Mandela effects for a lot of people is the fact that, you know, at this point they're kind of fucking with how the phrase rolled out. I even read and it might come from the book. Like in the book, I think it read, mirror, mirror in my hand, who's the fairest in the land? And I think that they even tweaked that to fit on in the movie. And they had to change it to mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all. So the line has been fucked with a few times. And so now today, the Mandela effect has it that it's not even mirror, mirror twice, that there's
What
some
is it?
other, I'm not sure. I'm not really dialed on the Mandela effect, but there's a whole third derivation that they're
That's
saying, and everybody's
certainly
like,
weird.
yeah. So they just point that out, that it's got the hidden Mandela effect is intrinsic to this scene. It's changed. They've altered our reflection of it, our memory. And that is, mem is water in Hebrew. So they've altered the water. They've shifted our reflection back. So I just made this little graphic to point out, I believe that correspondence is one of the most powerful of the Hermetic principles. It goes so very unappreciated. I want to point out that it's almost always the second, and it is very important that it is the second principle. The High Priestess is the card number 2. It has the 2 pillars, as I is the Roman numeral 2.
HP.
And here,
Yep.
yeah, High Priestess, HP. And here you see that she has the pillars framing her as she approaches her mirror.
The portal.
The portal, yes. And I also want to point out the break in the zodiac. So she is hailing back to old sciences. She's going back to the old ways. And she is standing at the spring equinox, which a lot of people will refer to that as the pagan New Year. So she is, by observing a calendar with the crucial key breaking point at the spring equinox, 322 skull and bones, she's standing at that pagan New Year, at that reflection point. And it is a very crucial aspect of March, M, which you turn M sideways, you get a 3. It's the 3rd month, March. It's all there. I just wanted to share all of that. And also Medusa, Med USA, Medusa, her defining moment was when she was looking in the mirror and she realized that her image was not as it should be. And that was when she started to realize that she was going through this metamorphosis. And I believe that that's a metaphor for when a woman is pregnant. She notices her light is different because she was
Nice.
pregnant and she didn't know it yet.
Good call. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Go ahead.
When you're done, I just want to mention the zodiac thing right here. I'm really
Yeah.
glad you mentioned the break too. That's the first thing I noticed.
Uh-huh.
And then also, I think symbolically, it's really sound the fact that they would just put the zodiac around the mirror, because what we're talking about here with all this mirror stuff is that everything is a reflection of the sacred center. It's like everything is a reflection of the original seed, of the original egg, or whatever you want to call it, of the original pattern. And that's what the zodiac is too. It's all a reflection of this original creation, as are we, as is nature, as is everything in this reality, as is our language, and all of these symbols and everything else. And so I just think that's a really beautiful symbolism, the fact that they would put the mirror just right in the center there with the zodiac around it. Even if, to me, I think it's kind of off. I think maybe they should have started with Aries on the left and gone through the zodiac that way. But clearly, these guys knew exactly what they're doing. This is all with intention and purpose, even if I
Yes.
don't understand it.
Yeah, I would maybe try to vindicate that difference by pointing out that Perseus is the last of the minor decans of Aries, the ram, and so he's holding the head of Medusa at that breaking point between the ram and the bull. And Medusa has horns. A lot of people miss her horns. It slips through the mythology a lot. So she does have both horns, which are intrinsic to the ram and to the bull.
Good one.
So yeah, I would just point out.
Yeah, no, I could see that.
Massive.
They did it. It was very strategically done.
Massive.
Yes.
Massive.
This is crazy. There's 2 snakes on top too, eating their tails. And what are those 5 pearls?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh, shit, they didn't see
Ouroboros,
that.
dude.
Yes.
What the fuck?
Matching her crown.
I was gonna say she's
5
rocking the
pearls
crown, dude. She's rocking the crown, bro.
in the 5. Yeah. So that's
And-
Venus. That's the 5 spokes of
Yeah,
Venus.
exactly. For
Nice.
sure. And then you have the canopy of stars above the zodiac itself, the canopy of heaven, the firmament.
Oh, that's Mason
Yes.
AF, dude. And then the pillars, obviously.
Yes. So she is in the position where Medusa is, where the head of Medusa is in the heavens. She's very much, she's nefarious. She's the dark one. She uses an apple or fruit as a weapon. She's weaponized temptation, and the high priestess has the pomegranates, and as part of her iconography. And that's a forbidden fruit for in the underworld. So I just wanted to put all of that into the weave. And then let's see, I'll go, and here is just some really fun gematria that I did. And let's see, can you see? Oh, it looks like this is in the way. Can you see the very top? Let me see if I can. Oh, can you see this top line?
Globus.
Globus. The word globus in the 3 most important ciphers
it's
is
the
an
water.
identical match
it's
to
the
the
fucking
word
grounder.
stream. And I just thought I would share that with you, Mario or Romy, because I know that you're totally down with the globus cruciger.
It's just his pants.
Dude, no,
Yeah, bro.
because just literally we were saying that earlier. I was like, no, because the scepter has to be the ghost, but the globus has to be the water, and then you write it in here, man. It's totally the grounding cord, bro.
So Eden had 4 streams. Originally had the 4 streams. So I just thought I would share that with you because the 76 reduces down to the 4 here. But then we have stream is in septenary. So walking away from the other ciphers, stream is a 25, and river also is a 25 in the same
Nice.
exact cipher.
Nice.
And river is all 5s across the board.
And water's a mirror, dude.
Interesting.
Yes. And so some
Dude, good
other
stuff. This is awesome. I'll just add, just real quick with stream. There's also similarly, when we're talking about Eden, we're talking about, the central location, perhaps a northern location, and stream is not only related to water, but also air. And so there's also these myths about 4 air streams coming from the north. you know, very similar to the
Wow.
Eden thing. So
To meet the
And
I
that
think the
air-
4 adding up to 100 too is fascinating.
wow.
Nice, man.
The 4
nice.
streams or 4 rivers being 25, you know, times it by 4, right? You have 100. So
Right. And isn't a traditional Airstream camper always silver and reflective?
Yes.
yeah, totally.
Yes. Tight.
That's fun. So then just a few more fun things. You know, people may have never really thought about the fact that the word selfish is a hailing back to the story of Narcissus. He's
Mhm.
looking at himself in the water. That is the self and the fish.
Yeah.
And I just think that was kind of a fun play on words. I did some of the gematria for that. Selfish is a 36. Mira in Latin, that is to look. In it, obviously. But look at the
Mirrors
gematria
itself.
of
Nuts.
it mirrors itself. 1551. Mira has a mirror aspect to it. So I thought that was kind of fun.
Ooh, look into the year 1551, bro. It'd be some portal years.
Nice. Oh, I bet. That's a good call. And then when you add the 3-6 plus the reduction of 12 down to a 3, you get 39. Narcissus is a 39 in septenary. So I just thought I would share some of these fun thoughts that I had in this project because I had
Awesome.
a lot of fun doing this research. And this is a real fun culmination, guys.
Dude, I'm fucking stoked you brought it, man. I loved all that. You blew multiple of my noodles out in my ears. I'm gonna have to clean all that up later, dude. Appreciate
You know, I wanted to also put one more thought into people's minds, something I came across and I just appreciate. In certain variations of the Narcissus story, he is not, there's actually a fact that falls through the cracks a lot. And it's a fact that just changes the tone of the whole story. In some variations, he has lost his twin sister. She has died and he's grieving her. And so him looking into his reflection and becoming obsessed with it is actually a grieving loss for his literal twin, who is a feminine aspect. So I just thought yeah. So it has the Gemini lovers. And then I want to point out in all the stories, there's a nymph who has been chasing him for a while, and he's rejected her. Her name is Echo, and she's hiding out in the woods while he's pining away, staring at himself. And every phrase that he says to his own reflection, Echo is behind him, and she's repeating the last half of his own words. And he thinks it's himself talking back to him. But I want to point out, Echo sonically is like ripples in a pool.
Yeah, that's
and
what
this hails back to the North Pole.
Oh.
And the fact that when you keep the shutter open with an image of the North Pole, you get ripples or echoes. So I just thought I would share all those ingredients to the Narcissus story.
Concentric
Totally.
rings.
Nice, dude.
Trip. All right. Anybody
next?
else?
Yeah. So just real quick, regarding the Vulcan's mirror thing, I've just been thinking about it since I brought it up, and his mirror could see the past, present, and future. And it changed hands several times. And then ultimately at some point, people would see through the mirror, the future, and that Queen Elizabeth would come into power. Right. And so to me, this is just really fascinating because symbolically, we're talking about the mirror being this bridge between realities. Right. And I'm just thinking about how we're kind of right now realizing that so much of our history is actually mythology, and that, you know, the history makers are trying to turn myths into reality too. And so there's all this stuff going on, but I just think it's really fascinating that this mirror, symbolically in this story at least, is like this transitional point between mythology and reality, or mythology and actual history, you know. And so we're going from Vulcan, who I'm obviously is mythological, there's a construct there. Queen Elizabeth too, for that matter, might be as well. But this mirror is acting as that medium, you know, between known history, what the historians will talk about, and mythology. So to me, that's kind of intriguing. And that's what the mirror has been used as in all these different stories, right? Going to a different dimension or what have you. So anyways, I just thought I would wrap that up with that thought. But this has been really fun. I learned a lot. You guys are awesome.
You're awesome, brother.
Same here,
It's
man. You
always a
guys
pleasure.
I'm here just to learn from you guys, man. Like this whole thing, especially that part of the mirrors and the self-reflection part and the mythologies. I'm glad you brought up the mythologies and living mythologies, because if we know that what we're seeing in the world is completely fake and it's a told story that isn't lived. But I think the point of this is to live the mythologies, to create our own mythologies, to live extraordinary lives enough that when we tell our stories, it inspires other people's stories. So live your own mythology, rewrite it, fuck it, burn it all out. Don't take anybody else's, know all the myths so that we can live them better.
Yeah. I love that.
Word. Yo, so at the 101 podcast, follow me on there. Love you guys. This was great.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sweet. Well, yeah, we've made it to a fork in the road, but it's not the end, because this is too gosh dang juicy, and I still got like 30 other slides, and I think we might just rejoin in a few months. Give it some time to air, maybe, or come back in on some sort of like lunar cycle of sorts, because this is right after the new moon, so we're all buzzing, like straight up. I mean, if you guys aren't feeling that new moon from yesterday, I mean, you need to check yourself, son, because that shit was strong, bro. You feel me? And everybody listening, you guys are amazing. If you trudged all the way through this, make sure to let us know on Telegram, and make sure to let us know through the ether. And remember to align yourself with the most high of the tonal frequencies, so this you can vibe and scribe and do whatever you need to. Thank you guys. Much love and peace.